Chapter 446. The temperature was cold, and the surroundings were filled with strange rocks. Craters could be seen everywhere, and the spaceship outside the atmosphere was the guide. Han Xiao led the two of them in this direction. Although the gravity of this planet was high, it had little effect on Grade B supers. After trekking for a while, a spaceship wreckage appeared in front of them. This was Ghidorah's research spaceship. The light gold shell was covered in black dust, and the body of the spaceship was twisted due to the impact. There was a trench hundreds of meters long behind it, and all kinds of spaceship parts were scattered around. It could be seen that it had slid for a while after crashing. Haluz looked at the tactical screen and said, it's dead silent, and there are no traces of thermal imaging. I think we should go over and take a look. Oh, thank you for making a suggestion that no one thought of. Han Xiao rolled his eyes. Haluz shrugged. You're really getting gentler and gentler. I keep feeling like you're targeting me. I'm only polite to strangers. I'm really flattered. Haluz was helpless. He changed the topic and said, your mechanical suit has quite a lot of functions. Why? The armor your brother left you doesn't have these functions. Huh. My brother knows me too well. He knows that I don't like those fancy functions. So the mechanical suit he tailor-made for me has the highest combat performance. You'll know how strong the enemy is with one slash. There's nothing to analyze, Haluz said. Speaking of which, those people at home took my armor and studied it for a year. I even gave them my brother's notebook, so they should have some results. How about we find time to go back and get the armor? Han Xiao sounded surprised. You can actually come up with a reliable suggestion. I didn't expect that. Haluz was speechless. He really wanted to draw his sword, but he had to maintain his smile. The three of them came to the wreckage. This was a small research spaceship that was divided into several levels of cabins. It was more than 10 meters tall, and more details were revealed in front of them. There was a large hole on the side of the ship, and the cabin door was still closed. Han Xiao looked around the cabin. It was pitch black inside, and there was no light. It seemed like the system was basically paralyzed. Let's go in and see if there are any survivors or corpses, Haluz said. Han Xiao said. Although he remembered the situation of the mission, it was not the right time. He did not know if there were any subtle changes. After walking around the cabin, there was no one. Han Xiao switched to the tracking interface and found some messy footprints. Extracting the latest traces, he found that these people had not left the spaceship. There were also traces of human bodies being dragged on the floor of some rooms. Well, it's obvious that the shield didn't protect them completely. Some of them fainted, and no one's footprints left the spaceship. It seems like everyone disappeared into thin air. The hatch is closed, which means that the hole was caused by something else. It seems like there are some special life forms on this planet, which should be the reason why the crew disappeared. Han Xiao spoke fluently. He walked around the scene and did a simple investigation. The situation was not much different from the mission in his previous life. He immediately felt relieved. Ever since his intelligence attribute increased, he found that his memory had also increased. Some of the originally blurry memories had become clearer. The evaluation of the mission depended on the results of the investigation. So although Han Xiao knew where the boss was, he was not in a hurry to go there. He went to the main control room of the spaceship, found the AI system, and manually rebooted the spaceship system. The spaceship shook violently, and all the rooms inside lit up. Reboot complete. Self-check in progress. Damage rate 72%. Most of the equipment is paralyzed. Fuel leaked. Energy remaining at 3%. Activating advanced energy-saving mode. Han Xiao pressed a few buttons. Activate the spaceship's camera. Insufficient energy. Request rejected. Switch to manual mode. Please verify the investigator's ID. Han Xiao thought for a while, opened the communicator, searched for a while in the memo, and keyed in Kurlad's ID. Connecting to the headquarters database. Connection failed. Signal received unknown interference. Connecting to the headquarters database. Connection successful. Verifying. Verification failed. This ID is not in the crew's name list. Ghidorah's operating system is really rubbish. Han Xiao's mouth twitched. He simply removed the outer shell of the AI system and took out the smart chip. It would be the same if he brought the chip back to the space station. Removing the various cores of the spaceship could improve his evaluation if he brought them back. Then, the three of them walked out of the cabin. There were no more valuable clues inside. Haluz hesitated. If the crew was captured by some kind of creature, but there are no traces of any creature walking outside, so that unknown creature can fly, right? How are we going to find it? Han Xiao touched the edge of the hole. There was a layer of ice here. He said, the rest of the spaceship is not frozen, only here. The water vapor is from that creature. The temperature here is so low. If there is a water source, it should be a geothermal hot spring. It might be underground. This creature probably used it as its nest. Haluz's eyes lit up. Those investigators might still be alive? I don't know, Han Xiao said perfunctorily. There's another spaceship wreckage nearby. Let's go take a look. Soon, they found the wreckage of the second research spaceship. It was also empty, but the traces this time were different. There were messy footprints outside the spaceship, and there were even traces of a battle. This spaceship belonged to the second batch of investigators. They were stronger, so they still had the strength to resist after falling. However, the result was obvious. They were all defeated. There are more traces of ice on the ground, but there is no blood. No one should have died. There are very few traces of a battle. Obviously, this group of investigators did not have the strength to fight back. After looking at the clues, Han Xiao removed all the cores of the spaceship with ease. He then said, "Let's go. I think I know where that creature is." Following the route in his memory, Han Xiao led the two of them forward quickly without stopping. The normal way was to collect more traces nearby to find the boss's nest, but there was also the possibility that they could not find it. If that was the case, the mission rating would not be high. In his previous life, there were more spaceship wreckages, which meant that there were more clues. Now, the number of clues was several times less, which was more disadvantageous. However, he did not need to go through so much trouble and directly went to the location in his memory. Soon, they found a hidden cave at the bottom of a crater. There were traces of excavation. The cave was about 4 to 5 meters wide and was not too narrow. The passage slanted downward. The three of them slid down the passage for a while and finally stepped on the ground. They were surrounded by a dark underground space. The temperature here was much higher than on the surface. There was only one passage in front, and behind them was a dead end. He turned on his night vision and walked forward for a while. There was a fork in the road. Han Xiao walked to the left without hesitation. The temperature in front was getting higher and higher. Haluz tentatively took off his helmet and felt it. He said, "This temperature is quite comfortable. We're almost there. Get ready for battle," Han Xiao said. The three of them walked to the end of the passageway. There was an underground lake here. The lake water was boiling and bubbling, and a thick mist filled the lake. This lake was like a hot spring. There should be a geothermal area below to form this hot spring. At this moment, there was a scream from the hot spring. "Who are you?" A naked god or a person popped her head out of the hot spring with a surprised expression. Water flowed down her curvy body. This was a woman. Haluz looked down, then up back and forth a few times. Suddenly, he realized something. "You're Lenny. You know me?" The female Godora was shocked. She was Nerage's wife. "We're mercenaries. We accepted your husband's request to come and rescue you. Where are the others?" Haluz asked. "That's great. Finally, someone came to rescue us. The others are..." Lenny's face was filled with joy, but her expression suddenly changed. She said in a hurried tone, "Don't just stand there. It's coming out." As soon as she said that, a small whirlpool formed in the middle of the hot spring lake. Something big was floating on the surface. A tsunami-like wave formed in the small lake, and the water splashed all over them. Boom! The waves flipped, and a strange creature jumped out of the lake. It floated in the air and turned toward the three of them on the shore. "What is this?" Haluz's eyes widened. Interstellar beast, a cosmic creature born among the stars. It can fly in the universe with its physical body and use the gravity of the planet to increase its speed to the standard of a spaceship. Although it can't warp and often has to fly alone for thousands of years, the lifespan of an interstellar beast is almost infinite. They can continuously transform and renew the cells in their body. It's very rare. Mages can summon interstellar beasts through an ancient ritual spell and perform directional teleportation that ignores physical distance. However, they summon interstellar beasts more to hunt them. The interstellar beast body is a very rare material. Han Xiao quickly explained. The interstellar beast in front of them had a strange appearance. It had a blue-purple slender body that was dozens of meters long. It did not have any shell or hair and was smooth. Its skin had a translucent texture, and there was a dense glow under its skin. It did not have any limbs, and it was narrow in the front and back and wide in the middle. It extended on both sides like fins. Its head did not have any facial features such as a mouth, eyes, or nose, only a long tentacle. At the tip of the tentacle was a crystal. Its appearance was somewhat similar to an aquatic creature. The interstellar beast spun in the air like a fish swimming in the water. Its tentacle shook, and Han Xiao suddenly felt an invisible force trying to pull him in front of the interstellar beast. His body was lifted into the air uncontrollably. Haluz took the initiative to attack. The battleship's slicing blade slashed out and hit the interstellar beast's body. However, it immediately exploded into light fragments. The interstellar beast was not injured at all. It was not even pushed back at all. An interstellar creature that can travel through the universe with its physical body. Don't expect to be able to hurt it easily. Han Xiao took out his electromagnetic gun and fired. The bullet bounced off the interstellar beast's body, and the lowest damage one appeared. The interface immediately showed the interstellar beast's attributes. Interstellar beast level. Class. Interstellar creature. Interstellar beast. Endurance to health points conversion ratio. 1. 500 attribute. Strength. Agility. Endurance 500. Intelligence. Mysterious. Charm 153. Luck. Energy. 0 energy rank. Health points 249986 status. Normal specialization. Unknown skill. Unknown. Han Xiao nodded in his mind. He already knew the interstellar beast's attributes. It was an interstellar creature with extremely high health points. It was definitely a boss model. Furthermore, its physical and magic resistance was very high. There was almost no damage to its body. In his previous life, the players had been wiped out once here and only found a way to defeat it the second time. The interstellar beast's weakness was its tentacle crystal. It had almost no resistance and was as fragile as a man's vitals. Basically, every hit could cause real damage. Every time the accumulated damage reached 50,000, the interstellar beast's resistance would decrease by 20%, and it could start to attack normally. The interstellar beast's attack was similar to telekinesis. It was good at control and could change the trajectory of bullets aimed at its vitals. The advantage was that it did not have enough attack power. The only way to defeat it was to slowly grind it down. Chapter 447. Its enormous body blocked all vision. Compared to it, Han Xiao was extremely small, like the difference between a sparrow and an elephant. The invisible psychic power that wrapped around Han Xiao did not have any intention of attacking. It seemed like the interstellar beast only wanted to drag Han Xiao in front of it and observe him curiously. The attack just now was like a tickle to the interstellar beast. In midair, 2 rows of propulsion nozzles appeared on the back of Han Xiao's mechanical suit. Turbulent airflow gushed out, and the acceleration allowed him to break free from the psychic power's control. The electromagnetic scythe unfolded instantly and slashed at the interstellar beast's tentacle. Clang! The scythe slashed on the crystal and created dazzling sparks. The interstellar beast's tentacle suddenly shrunk and its body wrinkled. Its vital part was hit, and its posture was distorted. This slash dealt almost 1,000 points of damage. Compared to its tough body, the tentacle had almost no resistance. Suddenly, the light on the interstellar beast's tentacle suddenly increased by dozens of times, like a flash bomb that exploded out of nowhere. It was extremely dazzling and filled the entire underground cave. Han Xiao and Herlu's mechanical suit's vision turned white. Before they could adjust, a huge force suddenly hit them. The two of them were pushed away, and their backs slammed into the cave wall. Boom! The shockwave caused by the psychic power explosion reverberated in the cave. The lake and the cave shook. Countless rocks fell into the overturned underground hot spring, creating splashes. Look, it's angry. Han Xiao twisted his neck and chuckled. The wrist armor revealed tubes that were flashing with blue light. Compressed orbs shot out and quickly turned into cannons. Bang! 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 In a split second, a violent metal storm erupted in the cave. Countless bullets hit the interstellar beast's body. The tentacle emitted psychic power and formed a shield, deflecting the bullets. Herlu's jumped up and landed on the interstellar beast. Close combat was his forte. The battleship slicing blades spun like the wind. The vigorous energy of the pugilist surged endlessly. His blade technique was sharp and heavy. He slashed along the interstellar beast's spine. Although the strength was no different from a massage to the interstellar beast, it was still impressive. The path was aimed at the tentacle on its head. The interstellar beast was extremely agile. It flipped and spun in the air. Herlu's wanted to stabilize his stance, but the interstellar beast's skin was very smooth. There was no leverage point, not even a hair. In comparison, Arosia played a bigger role. After energy transformation, psychic power could not control her body. It could only disturb her energy frequency, which was almost useless. She easily flew to the top of the interstellar beast's head and gently held the interstellar beast's tentacle. But in the next moment, the highly compressed energy in her palm exploded with a dazzling light. Boom! Boom! The explosions did not stop. The interstellar beast was convulsing from the explosions. Just think about it. When your vitals were hit by a boxer like a sandbag, the feeling was indescribable. Han Xiao felt pain just looking at it. If it were not for the fact that the interstellar beast did not have any organs to make sounds, he was sure that this interstellar beast's cries would be very ecstatic. You're practically breaking my dick. After Arosia entered Grade B, the strength of her Esper ability skyrocketed. Now that she was the #1 damage dealer, she was very useful. The three of them surrounded the interstellar beast and fought passionately. Psychic power kept exploding. Bullets rained down, sabers slashed, and energy blasts chased after the enormous interstellar beast and exploded into balls of light. Walala! Although this was only an underground lake, the sound of the battle was like an ocean being overturned. Lenny and a few other naked Godora people hurriedly climbed out of the hot spring. They leaned against the cave wall and looked up at the battlefield nervously. They could not interfere in the battle between Grade B supers, as they were afraid of being affected. The battle was intense. The interstellar beast's HP slowly but steadily decreased. Even if it protected its vitals, there would be a time when its defense would be broken. The interstellar beast's psychic power was only limited to pushing and controlling objects. Its attack power was very limited to Han Xiao, so he did not have to worry about it. Not long after, the interstellar beast's HP dropped by 50,000 and its resistance dropped. The damage dealt by the three of them suddenly increased, and they fought even faster. Although space creatures had thick hides and flesh, the interstellar beast was not good at fighting. Its combat power could only be ranked at Grade B. This was because it had an extremely high amount of health. Among the countless bosses, the interstellar beast's tankiness was one of the best. If the player's damage output was limited, they would be dragged to death by the interstellar beast. That was because energy and stamina were limited. The three of them dealt a lot of damage, but after fighting for a long time, their energy and stamina kept decreasing. Bang! The battle lasted for a long time. When the interstellar beast's HP was only left with 5%, it could no longer stay in the air and fell into the hot spring, creating huge waves. Han Xiao gestured to Herlu's, and the two of them dove into the lake. After searching for a long time, they finally found the dying interstellar beast at the bottom of the lake. They caught this monster, and the mechanical suit was operating at full capacity to provide the maximum output, slowly dragging it to the shore. Its huge body was torn open, and purplish-blue mucus flowed out. Its tentacles were dim and full of cracks. The interstellar beast wriggled on its last breath. After Han Xiao confirmed that this thing did not have the strength to continue fighting, he let out a sigh of relief and shook his arms to relieve the soreness in his muscles. Although he had the mechanical suit protecting him, his bones were still hurting from being thrown around by the interstellar beast. Huff, huff! Haluz took off his helmet, and his hair was wet with sweat. He held his knees and panted. This guy is too tough. I'm so tired. Aroshia's body was much dimmer. She had used up more than 80% of her energy. Han Xiao looked at the interface. He still had a lot of HP, but his stamina and energy were almost depleted. After retrieving all the cannons, he counted that he had lost more than 20 cannons. They were all crushed by the interstellar beast's psychic power. You guys took care of it. Lenny and the others walked over with shock on their faces. Han Xiao turned around and frowned. Where are your clothes? Also, you guys are not the only missing investigators. Where are the others? Our clothes were all taken off by this monster, Lenny said. It probably thought that those were our weapons. We were usually pressed to the bottom of the lake by this monster. Maybe it took us as trophies. Go get them. Put on your clothes first. Han Xiao glanced at them and did not react. Only sissies like to look at women. Real men should F***CK robots. He turned around and saw Haluz staring at Lenny. Han Xiao immediately patted him and said unhappily, "Don't stare at her. That's my employer's wife. I don't want to not get paid." Haluz scratched his head. Before he could say anything, Lenny smiled flirtatiously. She was in a good mood after being saved. She blinked and smiled. It's okay. We Godora people are very open-minded. You guys saved my life. Maybe stop. I'm not interested in gold. Han Xiaoxin's heart trembled. What the F***CK is she so unrestrained? Brother Nareja, you're so green. Chapter 448. Lenny shrugged and called her companions into the water. Very soon, they picked up a bunch of investigator equipment and put them on. Where are your other companions? Han Xiao coughed and asked. Many people died. This monster stole our equipment. If we leave the range of the hot spring, we'll die from the cold. Some people were dragged underwater by this monster for too long and drowned. Other than us, there's another group of people at the other end of the cave. There's also a hot spring there. Han Xiao nodded. There was a fork on the way here, and the other side led to the hot spring where the other surviving investigators were. If they had reached the other side first, they would have been able to obtain information about the interstellar beast in advance and would not be clueless about the boss. Why did this interstellar beast capture you guys? Haluz asked curiously. It seems to have trapped you guys here on purpose. Hearing that, anger appeared on Lenny's face. After we fell, this monster appeared. It captured us here and let us move freely in the hot spring. Sometimes it would drag us into the water and swing us around like it's playing with us. It's treating us like pets. In terms of life level, the interstellar beast was a higher life form. Treating humans as pets was like taming beasts as pets. It could be said that it was natural. However, people who were used to treating other species as pets had become pets that were casually played with. It was as if their high status had been trampled on. This group of Godora people felt angry and humiliated. Han Xiao raised his eyebrows and did not comment. Whoever had the power could do whatever they wanted to the weak. Outside the area covered by civilization, the law of the jungle was the only truth. He said directly, "All right, you guys are saved. When the radiation storm in the sky weakens, we can leave. Lao Mei, go to the hot spring on the other side and bring the other investigators over." Bringing these investigators back would greatly increase the mission rating. After making the arrangements, Han Xiao turned to look at the interstellar beast on the ground. The only problem left was how to deal with this beast. This is the first interstellar beast that Godora discovered. It'll be very important research material. If you can bring it back to the space station, we'll pay you a high reward. Lenny put on the investigator's combat suit and tied up her long hair again. She looked valiant. Han Xiao narrowed his eyes and pondered. Hand it over to Godora? No, this was too much of a loss. Interstellar beasts were so rare that one could only come across them by chance. Their entire body was a treasure. Using the important parts of an interstellar beast could be used to make gene potions to obtain attribute points, as well as a chance to obtain talents. Furthermore, killing them could also trigger a legendary level milestone. Most importantly, crushing the interstellar beast crystal into powder could create a special potion. The effect was useless to players, but it was extremely precious. It could even be used as a hard currency to exchange for any resources from NPCs. This kind of medicine only had one effect, and that was to obtain a part of the interstellar beast's ability to adjust its metabolism. In short, this thing can increase one's lifespan. Han Xiao had always been worried about this. The first few versions of Galaxy were still fine, but the later versions took longer and longer, easily reaching hundreds or even thousands of years. The lifespan of a super was many times that of an ordinary person, but in the thousands of years of history of civilization, it was still like a blooming epiphyllum. There would always be talents in every generation, and they would dominate for hundreds of years. There are not many ways to increase one's lifespan, such as changing to a mechanical body, but the side effects were very obvious. However, the Interstellar Beast potion had almost no side effects. This is a very important thing. We can't waste it. Han Zhao's eyes focused. He grabbed the Interstellar Beast crystal, and a mental wave was transmitted to his mind. It was a begging emotion. The Interstellar Beast was begging for mercy. Han Xiao ignored it. The surging gray light of void impact extended along his arm and exploded in his palm. Boom! The heavily damaged crystal shattered into pieces and fell into Han Zhao's hand. The purplish-blue color under the interstellar beast's skin quickly dimmed, and life disappeared from the body of this interstellar beast. This crystal was the life core of the interstellar beast, and it was also the most important material. You have killed an interstellar beast. Legendary Hunter, milestone activated. Current progress, 1/5, killed 5 special creatures. This was a legendary milestone. After completing it, one would obtain the corresponding legendary points. The special creatures here referred to all kinds of special and rare creatures, including interstellar beasts. Also, they had to be at the level of a boss template of a certain level and had to be unique. Bosses that appeared in dungeons did not count, which meant that one had to complete the first kill. Luckily, there were many kinds of monsters in Galaxy. Even in the version that Han Xiao was in his previous life, countless players had explored for many years, but there were still occasional first kills. Of course, every time, it was a fierce competition. After all, new species were always born in the universe. Some special legendary points could unlock some corresponding plots. Legendary Hunter was such a legendary point, similar to a title. Han Xiao put away the crystal, took out his scythe, and cut the interstellar beast's body. He quickly collected all the important parts. The interstellar beast's body did not rot easily and could be preserved for a long time. Very soon, this interstellar beast's body was left with its stomach cut open. Sigh. Lenny's face was filled with pity, but he did not have any objections. This beast was Han Zhao's trophy anyway, so he could do whatever he wanted with it. At this time, Haluz finally arrived with the other investigators. These Gadara people were all pleasantly surprised. They were singing in the hot spring when they were suddenly rescued by mercenaries. It was like a dream. Looking at the interstellar beast's body, the new investigators looked at Han Xiao with surprise. They had suffered a lot in the hands of this monster and knew how powerful it was. Everyone's here. Let's go, Han Xiao said. Back on the surface, Han Xiao used the device to measure the radiation density. After waiting for a few days, the temporary weakening period of the radiation storm finally arrived. He hurriedly called everyone to board the aircraft and flew into the sky. The aircraft itself could only carry about 10 people, but there were more than 10 investigators. They were all squeezed together in the cabin. They successfully passed through the storm area, and the spaceship came to pick them up. Both parties docked, and everyone returned to the spaceship. All the investigators hugged each other warmly and were overjoyed to have escaped death. Han Xiao was concerned about the mission, so he did not waste any time. He set the return route and set off immediately. A few days later, the spaceship returned to the space station again. This time, it applied to dock, indicating that the missing investigators had been rescued. Everyone in the space station was shocked. The space station immediately opened the port. Unlike the cold treatment last time, the attitude of the space station changed drastically this time. Everyone was warmly welcomed. The spaceship stopped at the port. As soon as the cabin opened, Han Xiao saw a crowd gathered at the dock. Almost all the members of the space station were there, and the station master was right at the front. This meticulous officer had surprise and joy on his face. Chapter 449. My dear. Nareja squeezed out of the crowd and opened his arms excitedly. When Lenny saw her husband, she smiled and jumped into Nareja's arms. She kissed him on the forehead and kissed him passionately. She hung around Nareja's neck like a koala bear. She was so passionate that it looked like she was going to grow up in the next second. Han Zhao's eyes hurt. He recalled the time when he had caught Kurlad and stripped him naked. He had a strong back, a bear's waist, and a small bird. No wonder Ghidorah had so many mixed bloods. The other surviving investigators jumped off the spaceship and hugged their friends, talking and laughing. Han Xiao walked down the gangway and was greeted by the station chief. He was surprised. Black Star, you guys are... Obviously, the station chief did not know that Nareja had hired mercenaries in private. Transferring internal affairs to mercenaries without permission was a violation of Ghidorah's regulations. Depending on the severity of the case, punishment would be given. It would be recorded in the work record and affect one's promotion and future. When Nareja issued the mission, he asked Han Xiao not to reveal it. However, if he concealed it, he might miss some events and cause his evaluation to drop. Therefore, Han Xiao did not follow his instructions and told Lenny and the others. The rescued Ghidorah investigators naturally understood this regulation. After discussing it in private on the spaceship, they decided to conceal the identity of their employer. After all, Nareja had risked his life to hire someone to save them. As colleagues, they were willing to cover for him. When the surrounding investigators heard the station chief's question, they all looked over. The surviving investigators wanted to say something, but stopped. They looked at Han Xiao worriedly. Nareja was even more nervous and swallowed his saliva. These people were worried that Han Xiao would tell the truth. Black Star was not an official of Ghidorah and might not know their regulations. Han Xiao just smiled. When we were docked, I heard about the research ship. I am a mercenary and will not let go of any opportunity to make money. Mr. Station Chief, my services are not free. Maybe you should pay a reasonable price for my labor. Hearing that, Nareja heaved a sigh of relief. The other investigators were also relieved. They looked at Han Xiao gratefully. In order to protect his employer's identity, this mercenary even put on an act. How professional. The station master was stunned and a little embarrassed. According to the rules, we can't pay you. This was your own initiative. We didn't hire you. Han Xiao raised his eyebrows. You want me to work for free? Is this how Ghidorah treats its friends? The deputy station chief's eyes flashed with a hint of joy. He coughed and said, Station chief, he did save the missing people after all. Although it is against the rules, I feel that we should repay his kindness. We should thank him for saving the lives of these investigators. Ghidorah will never mistreat our friends. The station chief frowned and shook his head firmly. Rules are rules. I'm very grateful for your actions, but I really can't pay you. This is your own initiative. If I pay you after the fact, it will become an employment act. It's against the rules. The faces of the surrounding people changed. They were all a little dissatisfied, especially Lenny and the other surviving investigators. Their eyes were a little cold. These mercenaries saved us, but you don't even want to pay them. Are our lives so cheap in your eyes? Although they were unhappy, these people did not say anything. The rules could not be refuted. Han Xiao narrowed his eyes and deliberately made his tone sound cold. Well, I'll treat it as if I did a good deed. I want to dock here for a day. I don't know if you'll allow it. Seeing that he did not insist on payment, the station master was relieved. He nodded and said, Okay, we welcome friends. Hearing this, the surrounding people glared at the station master with dissatisfaction. However, They looked at Han Xiao with more enthusiasm. The station master turned and left. The crowd also slowly dispersed. When they passed by Han Xiao, they all bowed solemnly to express their gratitude to him. In the distant passage, only the deputy station master and the station master were on the road. The deputy station master took a few steps forward and stood side by side with the station master. He complained, "You're too stubborn." The station master shook his head with a serious expression. "This is not stubbornness, but principle. Since I've been assigned to this space station by the higher-ups, my duty is to supervise all the work here and make everyone do things according to the rules." "Sigh, you're right." The deputy station master pretended to sigh. Very few mercenaries will do things first and then negotiate. Their behavior was not accidental. They must have been secretly hired by the space station's staff. The station master suddenly stopped in his tracks, and his eyes narrowed. "You're right. That group of mercenaries deliberately hid the truth. They wanted to earn more money." Mercenaries are indeed a group of greedy people. Investigate. I want to know who hired those mercenaries. The deputy station master hurriedly dissuaded him. "It's enough that we know this in our hearts. Don't take it so seriously. No matter what, it's a good thing that all the missing investigators have returned. Pretend that you don't know about this. As long as you don't pursue it, the violation doesn't exist. If you report this to the higher-ups, you can write the investigator's survival into your own merit. This will be very good for your future. They will think that you are very capable." The station master stopped in his tracks and frowned. He said righteously, "Merit? I won't hide the truth for such a thing. Find out who hired the Black Star mercenary. A violation is a violation. There is no tolerance." Back in the hall, Nareja found Han Xiao. The two of them walked to the side. He held Han Xiao's hand with a grateful expression. "Thank you so much for your help, Lenny, and I don't know how to repay you." Looking at Nareja, Han Xiao felt that there was a layer of green light above his head. He pulled his hand back, shrugged, and said, "Of course you know how to repay me. We agreed on the reward." Yes. I was just too excited." Nareja took out his communicator and quickly transferred the money. Interstellar Beast completed. Mission calculation complete. Mission rating, excellent. You have received, excellent, additional reward. Additional 50% EXP, 425,000. Random reward X1 inch. It's only an excellent rating. Han Xiaoxin's mind moved. The chance of getting a random reward with an excellent rating is 30%. Luckily, I got it. Plus 35 Nareja favorability, plus 20 Lenny favorability. This favorability. Han Xiao's mouth twitched. Why do I feel like it's a green color? The people of Godora were really not to be messed with. No wonder they could create so many hybrids. They could shoot. Suppressing these thoughts, Han Xiao activated the random reward on the interface. Randomization complete. The type of reward you receive this time is attribute points. Great. Han Xiao was expressionless, and his tone did not fluctuate. At this point, he was already very calm, or at least, he appeared to be very calm. Don't panic at all. Please choose one of the 3 rewards below. DX, 3, 6 INT, 2, 6 LUK, 1, 8 plus 5 INT, not bad. Although it's not a good thing, it's not a loss to permanently add attribute points. This is the first time I've gotten a random attribute reward. It's worth remembering. Han Xiao comforted himself and repeated it more than 10 times in his heart. He felt his mood become better again, but he did not know if it was an illusion or not. After receiving the money, Nareja took out a white diamond ring from his pocket and played with it for a while before solemnly handing it to Han Xiao. "I know I don't have much money. This reward is too little for you, but you still chose to help me. I'm very touched. This ring is called the Norn Diamond Ring. It's a magic treasure from my collection. I want you to know that not everyone in Godora is as stingy as the station master. Please accept my gift." The diamond in the ring flashed with magic radiance. Han Xiao held the ring and looked at the item introduction that popped up on the interface. Norn Diamond Ring, grade, purple type, magic equipment, ring, equipment bonus, plus 9% magic resistance, plus 7% magic affinity, plus 11 INT, plus 23 MYS, plus 5 CHA equipment requirements. Mage, level 80 or above additional ability. Ring of Arcane, passive halo. Permanently increases magic activity within a 15-meter radius and increases the power of all magic attacks by 13%. Remarks: this ring is engraved with a powerful magic enchantment. It contains immense magic energy. The creator of this ring is obviously an arcane master. Magic equipment. The attribute bonus is not bad. The halo it comes with is definitely a great tool for a team leader to explore dungeons. Those guilds will definitely be willing to pay a high price. Unfortunately, this thing is of limited use to me. In the mercenary group, only the eldest and second Volga brothers were mages. Their levels were also high enough, so he could only give it to them. Anyway, the version was updated and all the players were not around. There was no need to sell it. After saying goodbye to Nereja, Han Xiao returned to the hall and threw the ring to the Volga brothers. The three of them exclaimed in joy and ran to the side to study it. Only Herluz was left holding his cards and looking at the game that he was about to win. The matter is settled. Are we not leaving now? Fu Ding asked. Han Zhao's eyes flashed. There are some other situations here, but I've already done what I should. It will take a long time for a profitable situation to form. Only then will there be any value in coming back. Everyone, rest up. We'll leave later. Nothing else will happen here for now, so there's no need to stay here any longer. No one understood what he meant. You're the team leader anyway. You know what you're doing, Herluz said. Where are we going next? Han Xiao thought of the interstellar beast materials piled up in the spaceship and said, let's find someone to turn the corpses in the warehouse into potions first. Although finding the mission completion card was important, there was no rush. He could not rush it anyway. Chapter 450. The universe was vast, and new species were born at every moment. Finding the valuable parts of various plants and animals and refining them into medicine was a complicated and profound subject. This was especially so in the interstellar space where there were countless species. It required patience and the skill of time. There were also many different ways to refine potions, such as chemical potions from the technological side, witchcraft potions from the magical side, and various other potion techniques. There was an authoritative pharmacist association in the galaxy, just like the Space-Time Society. It was a platform for pharmacists to communicate with each other. It was also the easiest way for galactic residents to hire pharmacists. As long as one logged into the Pharmacist Association's website, there would be online pharmacist apprentices asking for clients' requests. This gave Han Xiao a sense of déjà vu. After the matter at the space station came to an end, Han Xiao immediately contacted the Pharmacist Association and found a reliable pharmaceutical company in the Shattered Star Ring to make the interstellar beast potion. This company was located on a colonial planet of the Amethyst civilization in the Colton Star Cluster. Purple Crystal was one of the strongest civilizations in the entire Shattered Star Ring. Godora was a star system civilization, and there were a few star system civilizations in the Colton Star Cluster. Godora of the Garten Star System, New Phylan of the Rain Star System, Holy Stone, and Black Raven of the Fawn Star System. The Amethyst civilization was a star cluster civilization that was one level higher, and their colonial planets were all over the various star clusters and star systems of the Shattered Star Ring. The stable stargates near Uberly Hub that connected the different star systems of the Colton Star Cluster were jointly funded by the various star systems of the Colton Star Cluster and built by the Amethyst civilization. The level of Purple Crystal was too high, be it in terms of benefits or danger. Han Xiao did not plan to have any deep contact with them, as the risks would only far exceed the benefits. Thus, his only goal was to make the potion. There were no obstacles in the process. Perhaps the Shattered Star Ring was more dangerous, but near the stronghold of a star cluster civilization, not many galactic pirates or scavengers dared to mess around. The range of a star cluster civilization's defense weapons was very long, and if they discovered bandits near a colonial planet, they would not even need to send out spaceships to chase after them. They could just fire on the planet and turn the wanted criminals into fireworks. The pharmaceutical company that Han Xiao chose had a good reputation and was very high-end. It was a technology-oriented pharmaceutical company. After paying a certain fee, he waited for a few days and successfully obtained the medicine made from the interstellar beast material. He did not encounter any problems. Inside the machinery modification room of the spaceship, a portable freezer was placed on the table. The lid was opened, and inside the white mist, there were 8 test tubes in total. 6 were light purple, and 2 were deep indigo. The former was a gene medicine made from the important organs of the interstellar beast, and the latter was a special medicine made from its penis. No, it was a life crystal. Han Zhao's finger brushed past the 2 potions, and 2 translucent light blue information bars popped up beside the objects, with the item introductions written on them. Interstellar Beast Medicine, high concentration 62, 0%. A precious medicine made from the genes of interstellar beasts. After consumption, attributes will be permanently increased. Effective number of uses, 0/3. Before drinking it, I want to warn you that the genes of interstellar beasts are not so easy to bear. Of course, if the mutated life form suits your taste, please feel free to drink it. Metabolism Adjustment Medicine, a rare medicine made from the life core of interstellar beasts. After consumption, lifespan will be increased with almost no side effects. Life is like a summer flower that disappears in the blink of an eye. No amount of wealth or fame will be as insignificant as dust compared to it. Guess how many creatures will go crazy over this small bottle of medicine? The lifespan increasing medicine did not have a limit on the number of times it could be used, so it would have no effect on players. Han Xiao played with the medicine and pondered. 1 interstellar beast is only condensed into 8 bottles of medicine. The ratio is really scary. If I drink the lifespan medicine, will the interface show that my lifespan has increased? This attribute is not recorded on the interface. While pondering, Han Xiao did not slow down. He drank a bottle of lifespan medicine in 1 gulp. It tasted spicy, like a burning knife stabbing all the way from his throat to his stomach. The pain only lasted for a few seconds before it turned into a comfortable warmth that spread throughout his body. It was as if he was sitting next to a fire to warm his body. Han Xiao was prepared to endure the pain, but he did not expect it to be so comfortable. He let out a long sigh and closed his eyes in enjoyment. His mind sank into his body and went beyond the 5 senses to experience the changes in every cell. Countless creatures in the universe had a body, but very few people could completely control it. The soul was the master of the body, but it was also like the slave of the body. It had to eat, sleep, excrete, and so on to maintain the survival of the body. It could not actively turn off these functions. However, Han Xiao had a different feeling at this time. It was as if he could control every part of his body, not just the parts where the nerves were connected. As his thoughts turned, he realized that his cells were responding to his thoughts. It was as if his body had become a precise machine. In the past, it was very difficult for him to control the operation of this machine, but now he could slow down the operation of this machine, increasing lifespan by controlling the metabolism. It really lives up to its name. Han Xiao stared at his palm. He could already control the speed of his metabolism. Now, not only can I slow down my aging, I can even accelerate it. However, accelerating is an irreversible process. Delaying it is more important. I wonder how much my lifespan has increased. The lifespan of supers was originally much longer than that of ordinary people. Coupled with the ability to control the metabolism, Han Xiao did not know how long his lifespan was. It feels like I can live for a very long time. Han Xiao subconsciously pushed his nose up. Looking at the interface, he saw that he had obtained a new skill. You have learned the skill, self-healing. Han Xiaoxin thought to himself. The interface says that it's a self-healing skill, but the ability that the life potion gives me is far more than what the interface shows. Looks like the lifespan is a hidden bonus, where the interface only calculates the basic attributes. The self-healing ability was not bad, and it gave him another layer of protection. However, Aurora's character summon card was not used up yet, so Han Xiao probably would not use this skill in the short term. There was only 1 life potion left, so Han Xiao stored it away. He could not guarantee that he would not use it in the future. He picked up another type of gene potion and injected 3 of them. He was already very familiar with gene potions. After the pain, he looked at the information on the interface. It gave him +2 INT, +6 Yindi, and +3 CHA. The bonus effect is not as high as the Void Dragon Marrow. After all, the Void Dragon is more than 1,000 times stronger than the interstellar beasts. One is a dragon, while the other is a mayfly. Han Xiao looked at his intermediate strengthening life talent. After using the Void Dragon Marrow the last time, this talent had leveled up. This time, he had taken a rare creature's gene potion. According to his deduction, this talent should be strengthened again. However, after a while, there were no other changes on the interface. Han Xiao was sure that the molding talent had not leveled up. Looks like one type of gene potion is not enough. Maybe the interstellar beast species level has not reached the standard. If I want to level up from intermediate to advanced, I will need to use more gene potions. But I can't abuse them. He walked in front of the mirror. His appearance had not changed. The interstellar beast potion did not cause any mutation. After using the Void Dragon Marrow the last time, he had become even more handsome than before. He stored the rest of the potions. After putting away the box, Han Xiao sat in front of the table, took out a mission list, and fell into deep thought. There are still dozens of missions on the list, and these are only the missions that are suitable after my initial selection. I will not lack random rewards. The faster I complete the advancement, the earlier I can prepare for the main storyline of version 2.0. Han Xiao touched his chin and thought of the past. He missed the feeling of running around everywhere just to get what he wanted. He thought about the mission itinerary again and confirmed that there were no mistakes. Hopefully, there will be enough time left for the version update after I successfully advance. The sound of Aluz and the others playing cards could be heard outside the door. Fu Ding's singing could be vaguely heard from the other room. He was learning Chan Xing's techniques and training his psychic power through singing. However, Fu Ding was not Chen Xing after all. His high notes sounded like a pig being slaughtered. Han Xiao shook his head, put on his earplugs, and took out a stack of papers that Sylvia was punishing to copy basic mechanical theory from the pile of books on the table. He quickly corrected them. Chapter 451. Anner stood in front of the thick silver alloy door without saying a word. Behind him was a straight corridor. There was a mini red indicator light every 10 meters on both sides of the wall. Other than that, there was no other source of light. This door was the end of the corridor. Looking back from here, one could only see 2 red lines extending into the darkness. At the end of one's line of sight, the 2 red lines were infinitely close to each other, almost connecting. This scene easily made one think of words like secret and forbidden. He had been standing there for 10 minutes. Chi! The door slowly opened, breaking the silence. Light spilled out from within, illuminating Anner's wrinkled but still stern face. A figure slowly walked out of the room. His back was facing the light, and his face was pitch black. He stopped in front of Anner. One of his faces was in the light, and the other was in the dark. The light behind him elongated this person's shadow, covering Anner's body and turning into a black line that extended along the corridor. Only with my permission can you contribute to Darkstar again, and now is the time, Ashes. Anner's stern face revealed a smile. He stretched out his hand and suspended it in front of him. Welcome to the domain of the Calamity. The figure reached out and shook Anner's hand. He lowered his head, and the face became clearer. It was indeed Ashes. Today was the day that Ashes was released from confinement and regained his freedom. To him, confinement was equivalent to training in seclusion. He did not need to rush around for missions and missions. He only needed to do one thing every day, and that was to dig out his own potential. Day after day, he finally crossed the threshold that countless supers could not cross in their lifetime and entered the domain of Grade A. All his senses were refreshed, as if he had been reborn. The increase in power was not independent. His life level, worldview, and thoughts also changed. The problems that he once found difficult to solve were now very simple. The enemies that he once could not let go of were no longer important. During his confinement, Ashes had been thinking about Black Star, who could restrain his superpower. The reason he worked so hard to break through to A-class was because he wanted to meet Han Shao again and wash away the shame of his failure. However, after truly reaching the Calamity grade, this deep-rooted thought suddenly faded. Ashes no longer bothered about Han Shao from the bottom of his heart. He realized that Anna was right. He was already on a different level from grade B. This feeling was like a person being offended by a mosquito bite. It was laughable and absurd. Ashes no longer regarded Han Shao as an equal opponent. Even if this person could restrain his ability to a certain extent, he was still confident that he could turn him into ashes within 10 seconds. The gap between level A and level B was an insurmountable gap. Teacher, thank you for your guidance. Ashes' tone was filled with respect. Anna's experience and teachings had helped him overcome many problems. He respected this teacher very much. Anna nodded and kept his smile. The current situation is not optimistic. Although we are hiding in the dark, Ghidorah has never given up on hunting us. With the implementation of the next step, the struggle between the organizations will escalate. Our high-end combatants are the main targets of Ghidorah, and some of them have left us. High-level combatants like you and me are currently the most scarce. You don't have time to rest. There is a mission that requires you. Ashes was expressionless. This is my mission. From the moment I open my eyes every day, I am already prepared to contribute my strength to the cause of Dark Star. Okay, follow me. Enter turned around and said in a deep voice, "This is your first mission after reaching grade A. I will move with you to prevent you from being unable to control your own strength. We are going to Norios to hunt down a traitor. In the Garden Star system, the galactic pirate spaceship that was painted with a stealth coating was traveling in the universe. It was currently in stealth mode where it could not be located. At this moment, a chase was happening on the ship. Don't run. Bang! A light cannon hit the ground where Sylvia was running, exploding a blazing red trace. A large group of galactic pirates were chasing after her with angry expressions. Sylvia was running with large strides. She was wearing a simple black battle suit, with only the joints and important parts covered with machinery to provide defense or strength. Her figure was already somewhat curvaceous, and she exuded youthful vitality. Her shoulder-length hair danced in the wind as she ran. There was a mechanical ring fixed to her right ear, and a miniature tactical analysis screen extended in front of her right eye. She was not alone. She was pulling a young boy by the arm as they ran together. This boy was a pure-blood Ghidorah, and his age was similar to Sylvia. He was wearing a prisoner's uniform, and although he was half a head taller than Sylvia, he was panting heavily. He was an ordinary person. Who are you? Why did you save me?" the boy asked while panting. Sylvia glanced at him and said in a low voice, "I'm a mercenary. Someone paid me to save you. Stop talking nonsense and save your energy. Run faster." The boy was dragged along as he ran, and the sound of laser explosions chased after them. In such a dangerous situation, this Ghidorah boy stared blankly at Sylvia's delicate and lively side profile. He was in a daze, and his body followed her mechanically. He was a hostage of this group of galactic pirates. He came from a wealthy family, and his father was the head of a Ghidorah financial group. He was extremely rich, and thus he was targeted by the galactic pirates and was kidnapped for ransom. Other than him, this group of galactic pirates also kidnapped other hostages and locked them up together. However, 10 minutes ago, this weak girl who was also captured as a hostage suddenly turned into a warrior, opened the cell, and escaped with him. Thus, the two of them naturally attracted the attention of the galactic pirates. Three galactic pirates suddenly appeared from the corner in front of them. They circled to the front and were about to shoot at the two of them. At this moment, the captain of the galactic pirates shouted, "They are valuable hostages. Don't kill them." The three galactic pirates, blocking the way, slowed down for a moment. Sylvia swung her hand and pulled out a short alloy stick from her tactical belt. Its exterior cracked open, and more components extended out, turning into a silver mechanical longsword. The two sides of the blade glowed with yellow light. This was an energy weapon. Enchantment runes were carved on the body of the sword, making it even lighter. Sylvia's movements were extremely fast. She lowered her shoulder and rammed into the stomach of the galactic pirate in front of her. The combat uniform on her provided her strength, and the burly galactic pirate staggered from the collision. Before he could react, Sylvia pressed down on his gun and pointed it at his partner beside him, helping him to pull the trigger. Boom! The laser beam penetrated the head of the person beside him. This galactic pirate was furious. Just as he was about to kick Sylvia away, he felt a sharp pain in his knees. His legs lost all strength, and he knelt on the ground. Looking down, he realized that his knee had been cut open by the sword, and blood was everywhere. Before he could scream, Sylvia held the sword with both hands and stabbed it into his eye socket. The blade of the sword came out from the back of his head. 2 months had passed. Under the guidance of Han Technician, Sylvia had gradually developed her own super potential. Now, she was already at grade D. Wearing the mechanical weapon that Han Shao had made for her, she could already deal with the galactic pirate gang, where most of the members were ordinary people. Seeing this, the third galactic pirate did not care about the captain's order and immediately fired. Sylvia quickly tilted her head before he fired, and her head avoided the laser beam. She was almost hit. She immediately pulled the alloy sword out of the dead galactic pirate's head, turned around, and cut off the barrel of the gun. Then, she remembered the lesson that Han Shao had taught her on how to quickly destroy the enemy's combat ability. She immediately raised her leg and kicked the third galactic pirate between his legs. Bang! This galactic pirate's face instantly turned purple. His knees bent inward, and he knelt down with his hands covering his crotch. His forehead hit the ground, and he curled up like a shrimp, twitching. The Ghidorah boy's body trembled, and he felt pain in his lower body. This series of battles ended in an instant, but the pursuers had also closed the distance between them. Sylvia did not have the time to finish the job, so she grabbed the boy's arm again and pulled him to escape. Let's go. The galactic pirate gang had many people, and under the pursuit, Sylvia's range of movement became smaller and smaller. Finally, they were blocked in a corner. Hundreds of galactic pirates surrounded the two of them and looked at Sylvia with evil intentions. The boy's face was filled with fear, and he grabbed Sylvia's shoulder tightly. Sylvia's face was solemn, and she protected him behind her. She held her sword in front of her and constantly adjusted the direction she was facing. You have nowhere to run, little girl. The galactic pirate leader walked out from the crowd with a cold smile on his face. I didn't expect that there would be a super among the hostages we kidnapped, and you even caused a commotion on my ship. Do you think you can save this boy so easily? What do you think you can run to when you're on my ship? Sylvia's temples were sweating, and she held the alloy sword even tighter. This galactic pirate gang was mostly made up of ordinary people, but there were quite a few supers. The galactic pirate leader in front of her was a grade C super, an existence that she could not match up to. Tell me, who are you? Mercenary, Sylvia said with a deep voice, but her voice still sounded very young and crisp. As soon as she said that, the galactic pirates looked at each other and burst into laughter. Ha ha! This kid is a mercenary? Sylvia's face was filled with anger. I just killed 3 of your members. Everyone laughed even louder. The galactic pirate leader laughed wantonly, and his face was ferocious. Little girl, you think you could become a mercenary just because you killed 3 ordinary people? You overestimate yourself. You know nothing about strength. Sylvia bit her lips and said fiercely, I still have companions. They won't let you go. What kind of mercenary group would want a kid like you? A Boy Scout? Ha! I'll kill as many of your companions as they come. The galactic pirate leader sneered. As for you, hee, although you're a little young, you're quite pretty. I don't think a mercenary group can pay much ransom, so I'll use your body to pay for it. The eyes of all the galactic pirates lit up, and they laughed in tacit understanding. They sized up Sylvia's face and body without any restraint. Don't mess around. Sylvia instantly became nervous. The boy's expression changed drastically, and he somehow mustered up the courage to stand in front of Sylvia. Just as he was about to speak, the galactic pirates suddenly started arguing. I want her legs. The meat is the best. Then I want her butt. I like fat. Her ears are crispy. It's best to cut them off and eat them raw. Sylvia's expression froze, and she couldn't help but feel confused. She shouted, "Hey, is this what you mean by using my body to pay for it?" The galactic pirate leader was confused when he heard this. Of course it's to eat you. Is there any other meaning? Sylvia had a sour expression on her face. She narrowed her eyes and muttered to herself, "Why do I suddenly feel like killing them?" Beep, beep, beep. At this moment, Sylvia's wrist suddenly made a noise, and everyone looked over. Sylvia revealed a smug smile, and the panic from before was nowhere to be seen. It was all an act to stall for time. She shook her wrist and said in a playful tone, "This is a tracker," just as she finished speaking. Boom! A thunderous explosion sounded beside them, and the ship shook violently. Everyone cried out in surprise and almost fell down. They hurriedly looked in the direction of the explosion. They saw a large hole in the tunnel dozens of meters away. Dust and smoke filled the air. A few figures appeared in the smoke and stepped onto the spaceship. The leader was the first to walk out of the smoke. He was wearing a black trench coat, and his hands were behind his back. Radiance like the starry sky flashed in his eyes, and his body naturally emitted a suppressive aura that made the galactic pirates feel a chill down their spines. This feeling became more and more obvious as the black-clothed man approached. He stared at the galactic pirate leader, and the galactic pirate leader's legs went soft, as if he was being stared at by a ferocious beast. In fact, Han Xiao was just looking at him casually. This suppressive aura came from the suppression of life. Chapter 452. Ding, ding, ding. Haluz punched the space pirates until their faces were swollen and bruised. He tied them together and formed a human mountain, all of them moaning weakly. Dealing with these weak space pirates was a piece of cake for Haluz. The main difficulty in rescuing the hostages was to locate the hidden space pirate spaceship. Therefore, Han Xiao got Sylvia to pretend to be a hostage and be captured on the spaceship with a locator on her. This way, they could track the location of the spaceship and land on it. At this time, Han Xiao had borrowed one of his employer's battleships and was inserting himself into the tail of the space pirate spaceship in a shameful manner. At the same time, this was also the first time Sylvia participated in an operation. It was a test, and Han Xiao gave her a full schedule of lessons every day. After she awakened her super genes, other than learning knowledge, there was also all kinds of combat training. Although Sylvia had only trained for 2 months, she had a lot of potential. She improved rapidly after she started, and she was very talented in actual combat. Not only was she not nervous during battle, she would become calmer and calmer. This surprised Sylvia. She never knew that she had the ability to remain calm in the face of danger. Of course, if not for Sylvia's potential, Han Xiao would not have spent so much effort to train her. You guys release the hostages. I'll go set up the route for this space pirate spaceship to return and hand in the mission, Han Xiao ordered. This time, Sylvia jogged to Han Xiao and asked with an expectant expression, "How was my performance?" Han Xiao stroked his chin and said, "Not bad. You pass. Why? Do you think there's anything worth praising?" Sylvia curled her lips and said, "Oh, Black Star, be more tolerant of young people," Haluz interrupted. He smiled at Sylvia and said, "You did well. When I was your age, I wasn't as strong as you." "Oh, no. I was much stronger than you back then." Sylvia bared her teeth and said, "You really know how to comfort people." Fu Ding smiled gently and said, "Don't listen to them. You improved very quickly. We all saw it." "Shut up." As soon as she heard Fu Ding speak, Sylvia immediately exploded. She glared at Fu Ding angrily. Every time she saw this guy, she would feel unbalanced. She had awakened earlier than him, but Fu Ding's growth speed was like sitting on a rocket. He smoothly soared all the way to C grade, and it was very easy. He sang songs and meditated every day, completely unlike the purgatory of learning that she lived in. Comparisons were odious. Indeed, all squinty eyes were monsters. Fu Ding was not annoyed. He revealed a warm smile, squinted his eyes and smiled, but did not say anything. He followed Han Xiao for 2 months. During this time, Chun Xing tried many times to take back control of the body, but she was suppressed. As Fu Ding's psychic power grew rapidly, Chun Xing's threat gradually decreased. Fu Ding's idea was to use Chun Xing's memory to make himself strong enough. When he could completely suppress Chun Xing, it might be time to leave. However, Fu Ding's personality was very gentle. He did not like to fight and would not get angry. He did not want to use this method to let Chun Xing experience the same thing as him, because he knew very well how terrible that feeling was. Therefore, Fu Ding communicated with Chun Xing many times in his mind, hoping to make her give up on her meaningless resistance. However, Chun Xing's attitude was unyielding and would not compromise. However, Fu Ding did not get tired of it and still maintained the habit of communicating with Chun Xing every day. The Godora boy stared blankly at Han Xiao and the others. Just when he thought that there was no way out, this group of mercenaries descended from the sky and defeated the galactic pirates in a few moves. He took a long time to regain his senses. He looked at Sylvia's back and mustered his courage to walk forward. He stammered, My name is Neru. Thank you for saving me. Are you mercenaries hired by my father?" Everyone stopped chatting and looked at him. Being stared at by Sylvia, Neru suddenly panicked and did not know where to put his hands. I want to know everyone's names," Neru stammered. Han Xiao rubbed Sylvia's head and said, "This kid likes you." "I don't." Neru's thoughts were exposed, and he panicked. Han Xiao raised his eyebrows. "Oh, looks like he doesn't like you." No, I don't dislike you." Neru panicked and spoke incoherently. Sylvia rolled her eyes at Han Xiao and stretched out her hand. "My name is Sylvia." Neru hesitated for a while and carefully held Sylvia's fingertips. The moment their fingers touched, Neru's face turned orange. This was the color of a golden-skinned Ghidorah's face. It was extremely scientific and reasonable. "It's good to be young." Han Xiao took out a smoky candy from the snack bag in Hiroshi's hand and popped it into his mouth. Recently, he was planning to quit smoking, so he could only eat snacks to relieve his boredom. He smacked his lips and said thoughtfully, "If I complain to my employer that his son molested my beloved disciple, I should be able to extort a sum of money. Next time you think of such a plan, you don't have to say it." Sylvia turned around angrily. After rescuing all the hostages, Han Xiao set the route. Not long after, they returned to the planet where their employer was. The guards and the hostages' families were already waiting at the dock. The hostages quickly got off the ship and reunited with their families. A police officer came forward to thank Han Xiao and the rest for solving this kidnapping case. Because most of the people involved were from financial groups, this was a matter that they had to pay attention to. Han Xiao handed over the captured galactic pirates and spaceships to the police department according to the rules. This could increase the completion rate of this mission. After the police officer left, Neru and a middle-aged man came before Han Xiao. The middle-aged man had the aura of a big shot, but when facing Han Xiao, he was very friendly. He thanked him and paid the reward. This middle-aged man was Neru's father, the head of a certain Godora financial group. Naturally, he would not be stingy with the promised reward. At the same time, he was also the mission issuer. After receiving 85,000 anas, the interface notified that the mission was completed. Deal with all the hostages, capture the galactic pirates, and hand over the spaceship. Completion rate is 100%. I'll definitely get the random reward. Han Xiao glanced at the notification and saw that he had received a new chance for random reward. He did not use it immediately, but saved it in the interface. He had already accumulated 4 chances for random rewards. In the past 2 months, he had completed more than 10 missions, and 80% of them had given him random rewards. At the start, he would draw every time he received a random reward. He had drawn attribute points, experience points, and potential points, but not only did he not get what he wanted, they were all trash. This made Han Xiao very angry, so he started saving random rewards. A single draw was not reliable. Only consecutive draws could create miracles. After handing in the mission, Han Xiao did not stay for long. He brought everyone back to the spaceship. The thrusters flashed, and the spaceship disappeared into the horizon. Nehru raised his head and looked in the direction where the spaceship left. He shook his father's arm and said, "Dad, I have something to ask of you." "What is it?" I want to hire this mercenary group to be the private guards of our family," Nehru said bravely. He could not forget Sylvia. "Impossible." Nehru was anxious. "Then give them more money. Being our guards is safer than being mercenaries. As long as the pay is high enough, they will definitely agree." The middle-aged man shook his head with a bitter smile. "It's not about money. Although Blackstar is a mercenary, compared to his background, our family's business is too small. There's no way we can poach Dragon Emperor Ames." Chapter 453. On the spaceship, everyone started doing their own things. After 2 months of running around, they had already gotten used to this pace of life. Han Xiao returned to his room alone, opened the interface, and rubbed his hands crazily. 4 chances for consecutive draws. Don't disappoint me again. After failing so many times, he was already very calm. As a mechanic, he always believed in quantity. Beep, beep, beep. Just as he was about to start the random reward, his communicator suddenly rang. "Who is it?" Han Zhao's tone was a little unhappy that the ritual was interrupted. "It's me, Nereja. Do you still remember me?" Looking at the Godora person on the screen, Han Xiao recognized him immediately. "Oh, you're that green. Cough, cough. Nice to meet you. This seems to be the first time you've contacted me after what happened last time. Why are you looking for me? Do you want to hire me again?" "No, I'm here to pass on a message." Nereja laughed heartily. "Do you know someone called Kurlad? He's my classmate in the investigator training class. He called me a few days ago and said that his investigator account was used by someone else in another place, and the coordinates happened to be here. I mentioned you when I was chatting with him. When he heard your name, his reaction was a little extreme. He seems to want you to pay him back." Han Xiao understood. He had entered Kurlad's ID into the system of the missing spaceship. At that time, the radiation storm had blocked the signal. After bringing the system core back to the space station, the people there would naturally look at the recording and find the operation record. Kurlad was the Godora investigator who was sent to investigate Blue Star and was caught by him. Han Xiao nodded. "Oh, we're very good friends. How's that guy? Send my regards to him." Nereja had a weird expression. "Are you sure we're friends?" "He asked me to tell you. Blackstar, don't use my ID anymore. When are you going to pay me back the money you extorted from me? You're already a famous mercenary. Are you still stingy with a few hundred annas?" He still likes a joke. "I've been through life and death situations with him. How can you measure it with money?" Han Xiao laughed. Back then, he had spared his life. Wasn't that a life and death friendship? Speaking of which, Han Xiao had kept his promise and let Kurlad go because he wanted to leave a channel to communicate with Godora. He did not expect Kurlad to join Floating Dragon Island, but Kurlad was still useful. I asked Kurlad to pay attention to the abnormality of Blue Star. I wonder if they sent anyone else to investigate. Maybe this will add a new variable to the plot of version 2. 0. It should be a good variable. Han Xiaoxin thought to himself. All right, tell him that I've received the message. It's impossible for me to return the money. All right. Nereja smiled bitterly. He suddenly thought of something and said, Right, we had a personnel change not long ago. The original station chief was transferred away, and the deputy station chief took over the space station. I really can't figure out what the higher-ups are thinking, but this is pretty good. The deputy station chief is much better than the original station chief. The station chief found out that I hired you, and he gave me a demerit. Han Xiao raised his eyebrows. Station chief? I don't have anything against him. He's a good guy, but the deputy station chief is a slippery guy. If he didn't have an ulterior motive, why would he suddenly mention an unresolved internal matter to a mercenary he met for the first time? Plus, the rescued investigators are all covering for you. Who do you think will tell on you after this? Your opinion of the station chief now represents the effect of the deputy station chief overthrowing him. However, a good guy might not be useful. Even if the deputy station chief had bad intentions, if it weren't for him, your wife, and the missing investigators wouldn't have been saved. From the results, maybe you don't regret being used once. In fact, the person who gave out the daily missions to reward the interstellar beast Dungeon Crystal was the deputy station chief. He ordered the players to complete some internal matters and quickly accumulated results. If it was the original station chief, he definitely would not have let an outsider interfere with the internal missions. What you said makes sense. After the station chief was transferred, the deputy station chief seemed very happy. Speaking of which, the station chief was only acting according to the rules. Although he was a bit pedantic, he was a military officer after all, so it's understandable. However, I still like the deputy station chief more. If he was so strict about everything, there would only be 3 universal civilizations left in the world now, and they would definitely still be fighting. The other civilizations would either become the vassals of the 3 or be destroyed by the flames of war. Between hypocrisy and war, I would choose the former. Maybe most people would choose the same. Although I don't know much about it, I can guess that the dark forest period of the exploration era was hell. The peaceful galaxy era, now, is not easy to come by. Okay, you can slowly sigh. I still have something to do. I'm hanging up. Han Xiao decisively turned off the communication, opened the interface again, and exhaled. Let's begin, beep. At this time, the communicator rang again. Being interrupted again, Han Xiao was instantly annoyed. Can't you just let me have a few more draws in peace? The luck that I spent so much effort to gather is about to scatter. Who the F***CK is it again? Oh, Ames, hello. Have you eaten? Why are you looking for me? The Dragon Emperor's sexy figure appeared on the screen. Han Xiao was a little surprised. Ames had never taken the initiative to contact him before. Why was she suddenly looking for him? Black Star, I need you. Ames' expression was a little strange. Han Xiao's mouth twitched. Pardon me for asking, but what kind of need are you talking about? I received my teacher's whereabouts. He's come to the Shattered Star Ring. Black Star, you've seen him with your own eyes. Come with me to find him. Ames' tone was firm. Okay. Han Xiao facepalmed. As soon as possible. When I return to the Shattered Star Ring, I'll inform you immediately. You're not on Floating Dragon Island now. I'm traveling to the mother planet of the Radiant Federation, Ames said. Very good, very strong. Han Technician was speechless. Okay. Han Xiao was helpless. Where's your teacher? Someone said that he appeared in Norios a while ago. Before I come back, you should go there and take a look. Han Xiao nodded. Although it was a lie that he had seen the Dragon Emperor's teacher before, he did know who the Dragon Emperor's teacher was, so he was not afraid of not recognizing him. After hanging up, Han Xiao rubbed his temples and opened the interface for the 3rd time. Let's draw quickly. I feel like I'm going to lose again. There won't be anyone looking for me this time, right? Drawing in progress. Drawing complete. Your reward type is skill. After taking a look, he chose the most useful option out of the 3 options. It was a gunner skill, lock-on shot. Its effect was that the next shot would definitely hit the target, and there was a 10 to 18% chance of hitting the target's weak point. Drawing in progress. Drawing complete. The reward type you obtain this time is item. Han Xiao's eyes sparkled. Here it comes. Chance. Please choose one from the 3 options below. Esper Ability Awakening Fluid. Deluxe version. If you have not obtained any main class, there's a chance that you will become an Esper. Double EXP card. Double EXP from killing monsters and completing missions. Lasts for 6 days. I got 2 cards, but there's no mission completion card. Han Xiao's chest was tight. To be honest, the ability enhancement card was useful to him, but Han Xiao was still frustrated that he did not get what he wanted. Needless to say, the Esper Ability Awakening Fluid was useless, and he did not need the double EXP card. Instead, he chose the Ability Enhancement card. My luck is here. 3rd time. Han Xiao's hope was ignited, and he activated a new random reward. Drawing in progress. Drawing complete. The type of reward you have received this time is EXP. Good, very good. I lack EXP. Just in time. Han Xiao clapped, then slammed his head on the table and gritted his teeth. As if he had always thought that EXP was the most useless reward among all the options. Drawing in progress. Drawing complete. The reward type you obtain this time is Item, Medium EXP Crystal, X8, gain a certain amount of EXP after use. Range, 100,000, 1,000,000 Flaming Sun Battle Rune Halo, fashion after wearing it. The body will show a special appearance, and there will be a special light effect when moving. Whether it's strong or not is a matter of the version, but whether it's handsome or not is a matter of a lifetime. Mission Completion Card, X2, receive the mission reward with the lowest rating directly. The mission will be considered to have passed. After letting out a breath, Han Xiao closed his eyes in relief. A sense of satisfaction reverberated in his heart. Finally! I finally got it, bang! The next second, he jumped up like a dead fish and left a palm print on the metal table. He roared at the sky. Chapter 454. After being excited for a while, his mood quickly calmed down. After being unlucky for more than 10 times, Han Xiao finally got the item he needed, and he felt much more relaxed. The mission completion card was not some rare item, but he had actually drawn more than 10 times. He was also very helpless, but he finally got it. Now that he had the mission completion card, he did not need to take the risk to deal with grade A supers anymore. If it was an ordinary player, the level range would be like this. Level 1 to level 20 would be grade F, level 20 to level 40 would be grade E, level 41 to level 60 would be grade D, level 61 to level 90 would be grade C, level 91 to level 100 would be grade C+, and level 100 and above would be grade B. Of course, this was just the rough range. Because of the difference in skills, points, talents, and equipment, there would be slight differences. For example, professional players would reach grade C at level 60. Ordinary players would only reach grade B after completing the second race evolution at level 100. Han Xiao was also at level 100, but because of his various molding talents, he was far stronger than the players, and he was steadily at grade B. Together with the advantages of the mechanic class and the strength of his own attributes, he was not weak even among grade B supers. His actual combat strength was far beyond the standard of grade B. However, no matter what, level 100 was the edge of grade B. There were dozens of levels between them and the next grade. Therefore, Han Xiao was not willing to take the risk. Even if he reached level 120, he would still be at grade B. The difference between grade A and grade A could be seen from this. If he was facing an enemy a few levels higher, Han Xiao would not panic at all, but facing an enemy more than dozens of levels higher, unless he used special means, there was a 90% chance that he would die. Just by looking at this probability, he had lost his interest in playing around. He was not stubborn at all. Even if he wanted to challenge someone of a higher grade, he had to follow the basic rules. The method of obtaining the mission completion card in a roundabout way had really helped him a lot, allowing him to avoid unnecessary danger. Han Xiao had experienced many dangers in the past, so he was not afraid of taking risks. However, since there was more room for him to turn things around, in his opinion, it was naturally more cost-effective to accumulate than to take the risk to deal with strong enemies. Taking a step back, if he really wanted to deal with grade A supers, who knew how much time and resources he would have to waste? Now that he was using the method of completing missions, not only would he not lose money, but he could even make a profit. Why not? Han Xiao was worried that his hand would tremble. He pulled himself together and carefully selected the mission completion card. I don't usually see them, but now, 2 of them have appeared. I only need 1. I'll keep the other for now. Maybe in the future, I'll come in handy when I encounter similar difficult quests. Han Xiao saved up the 2 mission completion cards and did not use them for the time being. He was still stuck on a class advancement mission, so he planned to buy 2 high-end machinery knowledges that he had his eyes on. After completing his promotion and class advancement at the same time, he would be able to level up immediately. He now had 1,360,000 ANAs in his account, which was more than enough to buy 2 high-end knowledges. For consecutive draws, other than the completion card, there's also a skill enhancement card. I'll use it first. Han Xiao pondered. The enhancement card will increase the basic attributes of a skill, so even a max-level skill can be enhanced. If I can get a mutated skill, that would be the best. However, I don't think, what should I enhance, a combat skill or a machinery affinity skill? Han Xiao opened a skill tab, and many options appeared. He skipped over the blueprints and looked at the other skills. The mechanic class skills were the core. After enhancing them, it would basically increase his strength, but the effect would not be lost. Furthermore, there would be more machinery affinity skills after leveling up in the future, so the enhancement of this one skill would be limited. It seemed like it would be better to enhance a skill that had a special purpose. With a flash of inspiration, Han Xiao had a target. Why don't I enhance Flaming Will? I'm lacking damage output skills, and increasing explosive power is quite useful for me. If I can reduce the cooldown, this enhancement will be worth it. Han Xiao's eyes sparkled. Flaming Will had two active and passive effects. The former had a cooldown of 10 minutes, while the latter had a cooldown of 30 minutes. Although the damage was high, the cooldown was also very long, so this skill could only be activated once or twice in every battle. If the cooldown was reduced, his damage output would be greatly increased. Skill Enhancement card activated. Target: Flaming Will LV-10. Enhancing: you have triggered a mutated skill. You have learned a new skill. You have received Gene Liberation LV. Han Xiao was pleasantly surprised. Damn, I'm really lucky. There's a 20% chance. Gene Liberation LV-1. Active effect. For the next 5 seconds, you will consume 1000 HP. 50% chance to deal 200% to 220% damage. 30% chance to deal 300% to 330% damage. 20% chance to deal 400% to 440% damage. Cooldown: 8 minutes 30 seconds. Passive effect: when HP is lower than 20%, this skill will be automatically activated once. Cooldown: 18 minutes. After browsing through it, Han Xiao felt that the enhancement value had increased. Not only was the cooldown reduced, but the randomness of the skill had also been reduced. Originally, Flaming Will had 4 random areas, and the highest damage was 5 times or more. However, the probability was too low. So far, Han Xiao had only triggered it less than 5 times. Now, although Gene Liberation had reduced the maximum bonus, it had also changed from 4 random areas to 3. The reduced randomness meant that the damage output would be more stable. Most importantly, this bonus was not only for one attack, but also for a certain period of time. With his ability, he would definitely be able to deal more than one attack. He was a mechanic who walked the path of a cannon. His attack rate in 1 second was extremely high. This way, the effect of the skill would be explosive. Furthermore, this was only the effect of LV1. Han Xiao threw in tens of millions of EXP without hesitation and leveled up to LV-10. The bonus effect went from 5 seconds to 2 seconds, and the cooldown was reduced to 7 minutes. The damage bonus for the 3 areas was increased by 10%, which meant that the lowest was 220% and the highest was 480%. The cost was also reduced to 800 HP. Now that Han Technician had almost 20,000 HP, this bit of cost was nothing to him. Furthermore, he had obtained the self-healing ability 2 months ago, which allowed him to recover his HP in 7 seconds. This skill is quite powerful. Han Xiao clicked his tongue in wonder. After tidying up his things, Han Xiao pushed open the door, feeling refreshed. In the spaceship hall, Haluz was playing cards with the Volga brothers again, with a smug look on his face. On the other hand, the Volga brothers looked dispirited. I'm not playing anymore. How do you always get the cards you want? The Volga brothers were indignant. Haluz shrugged, chuckled, and said, because I'm good. Don't just stand there. Pay up now. The 3 brothers transferred the money gloomily. No matter how Haluz tried to tempt them, they would not play this time. They had already lost 4 times in a row. The 3 of them often played cards with Haluz, and they always lost more than they won. It was as if Haluz had the help of the heavens. He could always draw the most suitable cards, making the 3 brothers' gaming experience extremely poor. Seeing that the 3 of them were determined, Haluz had no choice. He turned around, looked at Han Xiao, and called out, Black Star, come and play cards. Han Xiao said in annoyance. Do I look like I have a lot of free time? At this time, Fu Ding walked out of the room. Just as he was about to go to the battle simulation room, Helu's eyes suddenly lit up. He hurriedly shouted, Fu Ding, let's play a round. Fu Ding stopped in his tracks, turned around, and shrugged. I don't know how to play. It's very simple. I'll teach you. If you don't even know how to play cards, how are you any different from the natives? Helu stood up and dragged the helpless Fu Ding to sit opposite him. All right, how do I play these cards? Fu Ding shook his head, picked up a stack of cards, and started looking at them. The official name of these cards is Galaxy War. Normally, we call them Wayne cards. This is the common language of the Radiant Federation, meaning dazzling cards. Look, there's even our mercenary group in there. Interesting, right? Let me tell you the rules. Helu's explained the rules excitedly. All right, that's the rules. You're psychic, so I don't have to repeat myself. Let's play a round. You'll know how to play after the battle starts. Just use the Three Brothers cards. They're also using the Shattered Star Ring deck. Helu's knocked on the table, and the deck shuffled automatically. These cards had simple industrial enchantments, and many of the special effects could be completed automatically. He raised his hand, signaled Fu Ding to play his cards, smiled, and said, This time, we won't play those normal modes. We'll play free-for-all mode. The way to win is to clear the opponent's health to 0. Since it's your first time playing, I'll let you play first. Fu Ding nodded. All right, you'll have to go easy on me. 3 minutes later, Helu stared at the field, dumbfounded. Did I win? Fu Ding blinked. Seems pretty easy. Helu's wiped his sweat. You're just lucky this round. I'm stuck. Let's do it again. Not long after, Helu's lay limply on the sofa. He looked like he had nothing left to live for, and he was weak. Are you lying to me? You actually know how to play from the start, right? Fu Ding smiled bitterly. This is really my first time playing. Your luck is too bad. In this short period of time, Helu's had already lost 5 rounds in a row. He was beaten to the point of doubting life. For some reason, his luck, which had always been good, suddenly turned black. He would never be able to draw the card he wanted. On the other hand, Phaidon was having a smooth time and could play whatever he drew. The 3 Volga brothers watched the whole process and could not stop laughing. This is the feeling. Han Xiao shook his head. This was the reason why he did not like to play cards with this group of people. As long as there was any element of luck in the battle mode they played, Fu Ding could basically draw the best cards every time. Helu's luck could crush the 3 Volga brothers, but he could only be beaten up by Fu Ding's advanced halo. How could a human be a dog? Stop playing. We have a new mission. Ames wants us to go to Norios with her to find someone, so we won't accept any more missions from outsiders for now. Han Xiao interrupted them and said, She's not in the Shattered Star Ring now. Before she comes back, I need to go to another star system to buy some things. I've already set the route. Everyone nodded, indicating that they understood. Han Xiao was naturally going to buy high-end knowledges. The Dragon Emperor had not arrived yet, so he planned to put everything aside and advance first. This was an opportunity that he had been looking forward to for a long time. It would allow his strength to increase to another level. The stronger he was, the freer his movements would be. In order to complete his plan, powerful strength was necessary. In fact, his plan was to obtain more strength. A few months ago, Han Xiao had already done some scouting. He went to a few star systems and successfully bought the 2 high-end knowledges that he had his eyes on. Because he did not take the path of gaining faction favorability, and high-end knowledges that were sold privately were very expensive, his savings plummeted to 500,000 anas. The 2 high-end knowledges cost him more than 800,000 anas in total. However, it was worth it. Money could be earned again, but the increase in his strength was permanent. The 2 high-end knowledges were high energy control from the energy branch and advanced virtual intelligence technology from the control branch. High energy control was very crucial. It allowed one to control a higher level of energy and belong to the core level of knowledge. With it, one could combine more stable shields and energy weapons. Energy weapons were more powerful conventional weapons than electromagnetic weapons. Because only a portion of the knowledges were sold, Han Xiao could only choose the more useful knowledges. Thus, he chose advanced virtual intelligence technology as the second one to create artificial intelligence. The high-end knowledges of the mechanic class were even more useful. Every one of them could play a role that could not be ignored. Ordinary players could only choose because the cost of high-end knowledges increased by 1 point. 3 points were needed to learn them, and 3 points are needed every time they leveled up. After some calculations, it was clear that the 3 branches had a total of 15 high-end knowledges. Learning all of them to level 5 would cost a total of 225 potential points. If he wanted to learn all of the advanced knowledges and basic knowledges to the max level, he would need a total of 450 potential points. Above high-end knowledges, there were higher-level knowledges. The mechanic class was an abyss that consumed potential points. It was basically impossible for the players to gather so many potential points. Thus, Han Xiao had been saving potential points from the start. These things would only become more and more difficult to spend. After completing all these preparations, Han Xiao happened to be in the Garden Star system, so he drove the spaceship back to Uberly Hub. Chapter 455. You have used Mission Completion Card. Trial of the Strong. In progress. Current progress. 1/1 level 100 promotion mission completed. Yindi bonus increased. 1 Yindi equals 50 HP equals 60 Constitution done. After the dust settled, Han Xiao heaved a sigh of relief. Level 60 was the first race evolution, and level 100 was the second race evolution. I once used the Void Dragon Marrow to obtain the Void Genes talent. This can increase the options for race evolution and add a new evolution path. The race evolution options were randomly selected according to the evolution tree. A few options with higher compatibility would be selected, and there would also be an option with lower compatibility that would provide the player with a completely different path. You have taken another step forward on the path of evolution. You have received a life evolution upgrade. Detected race. Type: 1 space human. Randomly selecting 6 compatible evolution paths. Selection complete. Please select one of the 6 options below to be your race evolution. Warning: the evolution process is irreversible. Please choose carefully. Appendix: evolution path characteristics. Type: 2 space human, minus 94% compatibility. Type: 3 space human, minus 92% compatibility. North Wind God, minus 75% compatibility. Void Prowler human form, minus 81% compatibility. Half-Dragon Hybrid, minus 64% compatibility. Intermediate Mechanical Life, minus 22% compatibility. Selection complete. Evolving race. Evolution complete. Race changed to Void Prowler, human form. Molecular structure improved. Organ structure strengthened. Metabolism changed. Adaptability increased. Your potential has increased. You have received bonus stats. Plus 28 STR, plus 45 DX, plus 15 Yindi, plus 24 INT, plus 36 MYS, plus 22 CHA, plus 570 energy. Energy level bonus stats have changed. Your race characteristic adaptability group has changed. You have received racial trait, Void Travel. You have received the racial trait, Void Mirror Image. You have received racial trait, Void Shadow. The excruciating pain of being skinned and torn apart came like a tsunami, but Han Xiao was already mentally prepared. Every time a race evolved, one's genes and cells would undergo a huge change. The players could ignore the pain, but he could not. Gritting his teeth, dense green veins appeared on his face, wriggling crazily like green snakes. His eyes were blood red, and the capillaries in his eyeballs were all exploding. The rhombus-shaped skin between his brows that was modified by the Void gene let out a blurry gray light. Gray lines extended out from his face and rapidly covered his entire body, changing the cells in his body. Z. The boundless energy in his body was out of control. The wild electric light was like dozens of lightning whips, crazily lashing out. The air was filled with a burnt smell, and the ground was scorched black. Pooh! Han Xiao suddenly opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. The bright red blood seemed to be boiling and bubbling, turning into a bluish-purple color at a speed visible to the naked eye. This time, the pain lasted longer than any of the previous times. The Void Prowler could be considered a completely different life form, and it was an earth-shattering change. This was the special evolution path that the Void gene had given him. Regardless of future potential or race characteristics, he was one of the best out of the 6 options. Type 2 and Type 3 universe human race were the conventional evolution paths. They had different inclinations and were generally more moderate. The advantage was that they were very versatile, which meant that they could take many different paths. Han Xiao had chosen this path at level 60 because he wanted to find a strong evolution path. Now he had found it. The Void race was like the Demon race and the Energy Life race. This was an entire species evolution path. It was rare, powerful, and had great potential. As for the other options, the Northern Wind God race was a special race. Their bodies were innately strong, their vitality was tenacious, and their reproduction ability was explosive. They called themselves the God race. The half-dragon, half-blood was also a representation of a strong body. These two were suitable for pugilists. As for the intermediate mechanical life, it was a complete change of species, turning into a mechanical life form. It no longer had energy, and its compatibility was too low, so he definitely would not choose it. After a long time, the pain slowly subsided. Han Xiao felt as if he had been fished out of a sea of blood. During the last period of time, what seeped out of his pores was no longer sweat, but human blood. At this time, all the blood in his body had been completely replaced, and his senses were completely different. Other than the 5 senses of a human, he had a few new senses. He could feel the flow of free energy and see the void vision. It was as if he had opened the door to a new world. Taking out a mirror, Han Xiao looked at his current appearance. His whole body had grown another 10 centimeters. Luckily, his 5 limbs were still that of a human, and there was no additional tail or arms. However, inside his body, the structure of his bones, muscles, and organs had completely changed. The degree of complexity was several times higher than that of a human. His appearance was not much different from before, and he was still as handsome as before. The diamond-shaped skin between his eyebrows had turned into an indigo crystal. This was a new organ that could be controlled and used to feel the void vision. His skin was even fairer than before, and his whole body exuded a mysterious aura. Not bad. He still has the appearance of a human. This is the human form of a Void Prowler. Originally, what kind of race was it? After becoming a Void Prowler, it could still maintain its original appearance. Only when it was contaminated with the Void gene, most species would be able to mutate into a Void Prowler. Han Xiao was very knowledgeable. The 3 race characteristics were all talents of the Void Prowler, and among them, Void Travel was the core ability. Let's see what it feels like. The world in front of him suddenly changed, and everything turned into a foggy state. It was as if he was looking at the real world through a layer of medium. This was the void vision, and he had entered a mirror dimension that reflected reality. The flow of time was different. When Han Xiao moved, the real world was basically still. However, he could not actually affect reality, and he could only pass through material objects. The 2 dimensions were like a mirror, and they could not interfere with each other. It was equivalent to moving freely in stealth mode. Void travel did not have a time limit, but it continuously consumed a large amount of stamina while using the skill. The cooldown was 5 minutes. Han Xiao walked from one corner of the room to the other and counted silently for a few seconds before deactivating the skill. When he returned to reality again, he looked at his watch. This movement had not consumed any time at all. So, the performance of this ability in reality is similar to blink, teleport, or short-range warp. Han Xiao nodded to himself. According to his senses, this talent was like a weakened version of the time deceleration ability. The only difference was that it could not affect things in reality. At this time, he looked at himself in the mirror and noticed the changes in his body. When he used the race characteristic of the Void Prowler, he he would leave his usual human form and enter the void form. This was because only then could he come into contact with the void dimension. The skin of his whole body turned into a crystalline gray, and there was a glimmer of starlight flowing through his skin. The originally white skin would converge into lines that looked like battle runes, spreading along the bone structure all over his body. The end of the white lines would gather at the crystal between his eyebrows. Han Xiao waited for a while, and his body automatically returned to its original state. The white lines spread out again, covering his skin as he returned to his human form. The gray skin in the void form was like a river flowing into the sea, and it was sucked back into the crystal. What a magical life form. I don't want to be human anymore. Han Xiao kept switching between the two forms, familiarizing himself with them for a while. As for the other two race characteristics, one was to form a mirror image that did not have any combat ability and could only confuse the enemy. The other was to summon a void shadow that would exist for 30 minutes. It would not be injured, had no offensive ability, and had extremely fast movement speed. It could be used to scout the way or interfere with the enemy's vision. These two race characteristics also consumed a lot of stamina. Most races only had 1 or 2 talents, and 3 talents were already a lot. The talents of the Void Prowler mainly focused on interference, confusion, and evasion. Among them, Void Travel was the most important and could be considered a super powerful evasion ability. It had an extremely strong life-saving effect, and the cooldown was only 5 minutes. On the interface, the class advancement requirements for his main class had already been completed, and it notified him that he had obtained the next class. You have received a new class, War Mechanic LV, plus 120 energy, plus 3 DX, plus 3 Indy, plus 5 INT. You have received 6 free attribute points and 1 potential point. You have learned the ability Applied Machinery Affinity. You have learned the ability Waste Modification. You have learned the ability Mechanical Overload. You have learned the ability Mechanical Force Combat Technique, Lock. You have learned the talent Battlefield Rationality. War Mechanic was the 6th stage of the Mechanic class, and it had already reached the middle stage of stability. This was the time when the Mechanic class began to show its power. The level limit of this class was LV20. As the name suggested, at this stage, the Mechanic class finally began to lean toward actual combat. Other than the new Machinery Affinity, the other skills were all combat skills. He invested his experience into his main class and leveled it up again and again. War Mechanic leveled up to LV16, plus 120 energy, plus 3 DX, plus 3 END, plus 5 INT. You have received 6 free attribute points and 1 potential point. After reaching LV100, the EXP required to level up increased with each level. Han Xiao currently had about 1,600,000,000 EXP, and he spent 1,300,000,000 EXP to level up more than 10 times. He was only 4 levels away from the LV20 upper limit of War Mechanic, and he did not have enough EXP left. The experience that he had gained from the players in version 1.0 was finally going to be used up. I still have close to 300 million experience left. I can level up again, but it's not as cost-effective as leveling up my skills. Also, I need to synthesize the 2 high-end knowledges into new blueprints. It's more useful to keep them. I'm finally going to use up this huge pile of experience. Han Xiao smiled in satisfaction. He had not felt the lack of experience for a long time. Not only did he not feel uncomfortable, but he also felt very happy and missed it. He had calculated long ago that he would definitely use up all this experience after his promotion at LV100. This was a great thing. The experience that was stored on the interface was just a number. It was no different from earning money and not spending it. Only by turning into combat power would it be useful. When he was playing the game in his previous life, the most satisfying moment was when he used up all his experience. How could earning money be better than spending it? Spending it, squandering it, creating it. Now that he had finally digested all the experience that he had accumulated in version 1.0, he felt a strong sense of fulfillment. During the version update, the players were not around, so there was no way to quickly harvest experience. When the next version started, it would be time for him to harvest experience crazily again. After spending all this experience, I'm now at LV 116. Very good. When the players appear again, it will be time for my strength to increase explosively. Chapter 456. After becoming a war mechanic, he gained 5 new abilities on his personal interface. Even without looking at the description, Han Xiao was familiar with the effects of these abilities. Application-grade machinery affinity gave a higher bonus than advanced machinery affinity. The core ability system of the mechanic class definitely needed to be upgraded. He only had 300 million EXP left, so he only leveled it up to level 5. Every level would give him an additional 5% effect, increasing his machinery affinity by another 25%. The prerequisite for waste modification was one of the 3 abilities given by the compression technology, basic machinery construction. The effects of the 2 were somewhat similar. Waste modification, its effect was that if a machine was destroyed, its durability reached 0 and turned into a pile of waste parts. He could use some energy to restore the parts back to their original state. However, the quality of the parts would decrease by 1 to 2 grades, and the basic attributes would also decrease by 25%. This ability could be used multiple times on the same target until its quality dropped to gray or its attributes dropped by 75%. This meant that this ability could only be used 3 times on the same target. As the name suggested, the effect of this ability was to efficiently reuse waste. Its effect in actual combat was much stronger than what the description said. This was also one of the reasons why the War Mechanic class was given the prefix War, allowing the Mechanic class to have more tactical options. In his previous life, the players had reached the 5th and 6th stage of their main class in version 3. 0. That was the time when the Mechanic class turned over a new leaf. The War Mechanic class was both stable and complicated when fighting, and it also required an extremely strong tactical mind. It was the most difficult class to control. Mechanical Force Overload, on the other hand, was a normal machinery bonus skill. It was similar to Surging Mechanical Force and Overload, but the bonus value was higher. The difference between the two was that Surging Mechanical Force did not have any side effects. While Overload decreased durability, the side effect of Mechanical Force Overload was that the machinery would enter a cooldown period, unable to operate. However, it could be used together with Overload. When the two were used on a machine, the bonus would increase by another 40%, and the durability of the machine would instantly decrease by 33%. Han Xiao had used this ability quite often in the past, but he had only used it on abandoned pieces, which were the machines that were cannon fodder in his eyes. Among them, the most special ability was Mechanical Force Combat Technique, which had an unlock suffix. It required one to learn a high-end knowledge, high-end electromagnetic force field. The uniqueness of this ability was that it was not a skill that could be used through machinery, but the combat ability of the mechanic himself. Mechanical force was the energy converted from electromagnetic energy, and it also had electromagnetic characteristics. This combat technique was to make use of the characteristics of mechanical force. Even without machinery, he would still have a certain level of combat ability, just like how every mage had a certain level of melee combat ability. The last ability was the talent Battlefield Rationality. It was a fixed talent of the mechanic class. After entering combat state, one's intelligence would increase by 1% for every minute up to a maximum of 15%. This talent was paired with the talent Machinery Analytical Comprehension, 10 intelligence plus 1% machinery affinity, from the previous stage of the main class. During normal PvP, the number of mechanic machines would decrease as the battle progressed. This talent made up for the late-game strength of the mechanic class to a certain extent. After the mechanic class was formed, it was very well-rounded. It could be used for both quick attacks and late-game attacks. There was a basic tactic that was to use a bunch of trapping machines to stall for 15 minutes. After getting the highest bonus, all the machines would be released for a wave of rush. Han Xiao only leveled up his machinery affinity by a few levels and did not touch anything else. He only spent 40 million experience, so he still had about 250 million experience left. He planned to spend it sparingly. He still had 96 free attribute points on the interface, so he continued to add all his points to intelligence. Actually, when he looked at the stick with the luck attribute, he hesitated for a moment. However, he did not add any points to luck in the end. Although 1 point of luck looked like a pain in the ass, it was of no use to him. Luck was related to the drop rate and the judgment of certain skills. He was not a player who walked the path of happiness, so he basically did not have any skills that required luck judgment. Adding points to luck would not increase his combat ability at all. Furthermore, adding 1 or 2 points to luck was useless. If he wanted to walk the path of happiness, he would need at least a few dozen points of luck. Throwing so many free attribute points into intelligence was equivalent to wasting them. Unless it was a dog, a lucky player would not be able to go far. After adding all the points, his attributes after the promotion were clear at a glance. Total level: 116 main class, mechanic race, void prowler, human form. 163 STR, 349 DX, 306 YND, 872 INT, 102 MYS, 41 CCHE, 1 LUK free attribute points, 0 potential points, 55 health, 27038 stamina, 25880 energy, 7700 LV. 9 LV9 energy bonus points, plus 53 STR, plus 72 DX, plus 80 YND, plus 90 INT, plus 55 MYS, plus 7,520 stamina limit, plus 60% machinery affinity energy rank, 7,637 ONA grade. BME energy rank is 7,600, and I have yet to reach B+. However, my actual combat strength is not weaker than that of a B+. The standard for grade A is a universal grade. According to this level increase, I will have the strength of a calamity grade around level 140, which is 20 to 30 levels earlier than the players. Han Xiao nodded. I'm already level 116, and I still have a mission completion card in my hands. The only thing I lack is experience. If I want to quickly gain experience, the players are the most efficient way. If I want to level up in a short period of time, I can only use the players. Therefore, as long as my plan can be carried out smoothly during the mutation disaster and guide the Blue Star players to join my faction, I will be able to reach grade A in the next version. After getting the cleaning robots to clean up the bloodstains on the ground, Han Xiao walked out of the simulation room. The moment he returned to the hall, everyone looked at him with shock. Am I hallucinating? You seem to have changed? Haluz asked with suspicion. Sylvia walked around Han Xiao a few times, patted her chest, and heaved a sigh of relief. You scare me to death. I thought I recognized the wrong person. Is it that exaggerated? Han Xiao's mouth twitched. After his race evolution, his appearance had also changed, but he felt that the change was not too big. Your appearance is actually not bad, but your temperament is different. You seem to have become more mysterious. Furthermore, I remember that you did not have this crystal on your forehead. Haluz shivered and said, Strange, I actually felt a sense of pressure from you. Our strength should be about the same. What did you do when you locked yourself in the room? They naturally did not know that Han Xiao could quickly complete his race evolution through the interface, while normal people needed to strengthen their cells over time to complete the evolution of their life level. The time required for the two was completely different. I'm stronger than before. Han Xiao chuckled and waved his hand. I won't go into the details. Anyway, I am still me. Haluz was helpless. Don't tell me you have some special training technique like Fu Ding. Fu Ding, who was meditating, opened his eyes. Who called me? Shut up. Oh. Haluz had always disliked Fu Ding. He snorted, looked at Han Xiao, and asked, Are we going to Norios next? Han Xiao nodded. Yes, I'm done with my business. Ames asked me to go to Norios and find her teacher. He had become much stronger, but it would still take a very, very long time before he could reach Ames' level. Before that, Han Xiao did not mind having a backer. After all, the galaxy was so big, and there were too many strong people and organizations. Furthermore, Ames had saved him once before, so he would naturally help her if he could. There was no harm in building a good relationship with a beyond grade A super. He was still under the Dragon Emperor's command and name. This time, Haluz interrupted. Before going to Norios, I want to go back to Planet Sunil and get my armor, Shattering Light. Planet Sunil is nearby anyway, so it won't take long. Han Zhao's eyes sparkled. He had been drooling over the commander-class armor for a long time. In the past, he did not have enough knowledge to study it, but now he had fulfilled the requirements. No problem, let's go back together. The spaceship slowly landed on the plains outside Forest City. This used to be the battlefield against the catastrophe, and blood flowed like a river. Now, it had been cleaned up, and it was a barren, scorched land. The 6 lines of defense of Forest City had been repaired. Pairs of armored guards patrolled, and tanks drove out from time to hunt beasts deep in the forest. As soon as they landed, a large number of guards surrounded them and lined up to welcome them. Before coming, Haluz had already informed the Sunil officials. As soon as they got off the spaceship, this group of guards shouted in Sunil's native language in unison. They were basically expressing their respect for Haluz. Let's go back. I've already contacted the government. We'll go straight to the research center to get the armor, Haluz said with a smile. They followed the guards all the way into Forest City. It had not changed much compared to a year ago, but there were fewer people on the streets. It was probably because more young people had joined the army. You're Haluz? Oh my God, hero. This time, the passers-by noticed Haluz and surrounded him with surprise. Han Xiao and the others were pushed to the side. Haluz quickly put on a friendly smile and chatted for a while. As more and more people surrounded him, he could not stand the enthusiasm of the residents and hurriedly squeezed his way out. The few of them turned a few rounds and got rid of the crowd. You're very popular. Han Xiao laughed. Haluz had an awkward expression. The government needs a role model to boost the confidence of the residents, so they promote my deeds and broadcast them on TV and radio every day. There's no one in this city who doesn't know me. National hero, so impressive. Sylvia's eyes sparkled. Impressive my ass. The end of a hero is to sacrifice himself, Haluz said in annoyance. He still remembered Han Zhao's prophecy. The group sneaked to the entrance of the government in the center of the city. Only then did they not see the residents. Haluz went forward to report, and very soon, a few officers came out to chat with him. This was the Sunil race's business, so Han Xiao was not interested in listening. After chatting for a while, Haluz gestured to the rest and followed the officers into the military-restricted area. After passing through many metal doors, they came to a sealed research institute. The space was very spacious, and there was even a hangar with modified fighter jets. The group came to a laboratory, and Haluz's commander-class armor was placed on the experiment table. More than 10 researchers surrounded it to test its parameters. This is General Haluz. He's here to take his armor. This is his pass. The officer went forward to negotiate. Han Xiao raised his brows, poked Haluz back, and softly asked, "When did you become a general?" Haluz grinned and also softly replied, "In name." The person in charge of the research was excitedly conducting experiments. Hearing that, he turned around, looked at the group, and showed an impatient expression. He came to the door and unhappily said, "Didn't you say that you would let me study it? Why are you suddenly taking it away? I heard that you guys have already made some progress, so I want to take back my armor." "This will be of great help to me," Haluz said. The person in charge of the research grumbled unwillingly. "How can we return it to you? This armor is related to Sunil's top technology. It's a national treasure, not something that belongs to you alone." But I was the one who gave this to the country, so there's nothing wrong with me taking it back. Aren't you a national hero? Are you not willing to make such a small contribution?" The person in charge of the research frowned. Haluz was helpless. He looked at the officer beside him, and the officer immediately took out the document. The general idea was that Haluz's request had already been approved by the upper echelons. The researchers beside heard that, and could only follow the order. They picked up the armor, put it into the metal box, and handed it to Haluz. "I've got it. Let's go." Haluz touched the box and smiled. The person in charge of the research was so angry that he trembled. If you leave the armor behind, we will definitely be able to get more results from the research, and it will be of greater help to the race. You're too selfish. Haluz's expression changed slightly, but he did not say anything. Just as he was about to leave, he realized that Han Xiao had stopped. Turning around, Han Xiao walked up to the person in charge of the research, grabbed his head, and forced the panicking person to look at him. He said calmly, "I remember how he was covered in wounds when he fought with me. I remember how lonely he looked when he lost his arm. I remember how he was in pain when he was implanted with the mechanical arm. If not for your bullsh asterisk T-race, with his strength, he would not have been able to live comfortably in the galaxy. I just don't know. How is he selfish? Is it because he's a good person that you dare to spout nonsense? Because you know he won't hurt you?" Chapter 457. You're not human. The person in charge of the research was terrified, and his legs were weak. However, his head was held by Han Xiao, so he could not fall down. Han Xiao was wearing clothes at this time, and he immediately retracted his void form. Only the person in charge of the research who was staring at him clearly saw his change, and a sudden change of appearance made him extremely terrified. Void creatures were not violent, but their mysterious origin and powerful abilities made most intelligent creatures wary of them. Han Xiao let go of his hand and let this guy fall to the ground. Han Xiao looked around. The other researchers were all huddled in the corner, not saying a word. These Sunils were just normal people, and Han Xiao had a life-level suppression effect on them. On the side, the few officers did not go up to stop him, turning a blind eye. "There's no need to hurt him. Black Star, let's go." Haluz was very touched. He did not want to argue, but he did not expect Han Xiao to suddenly speak up for him and even speak his mind. Indeed, if not for the sake of his race, he could have just stood by and watched. With his grade B strength, he could live a carefree life in the galaxy. Why would he need to become a mercenary and run around? Those Sunil supers who had left had this thought in mind. After going through so many adventures with Han Xiao, he had long seen Han Xiao as a close comrade, a reliable partner, a partner that he could trust with his back. Now that he was contributing to the Black Star mercenary, it was not just because of Han Xiao's promise. Scenes of fighting side by side flashed through his mind, and Haluz felt warm in his heart. At dusk, they left the forbidden military area, all the way out of the city, and returned to the spaceship. This time, Haluz grabbed Han Xiao and laughed heartily. "Haha, actually, I don't really care about what others say. When I was running the bar, I heard this a lot, but thanks anyway. It's just scaring people, no big deal. People like you deserve more respect." Han Xiao shrugged. If he wanted his officers to work for him, he had to pay attention to his image. If he wanted to form the image of a reliable leader, protecting his comrades was the most basic prerequisite. These main characters all had their own ideas. If his actions went against their creed, his backyard would be on fire. Han Xiao's attitude had always been very neutral. Whether it was obeying the law or committing crimes, he only looked at the benefits and his mood. Obviously, he could gain a good impression just by showing his attitude. Such a good opportunity to win people's hearts. He wouldn't miss it no matter what. Haluz raised the armor box in his hand and smiled. "Speaking of which, you haven't experienced my combat power in my complete form, right? How about a round? Now, are you sure?" Han Xiao raised his eyebrows. "You want to end this beautiful day with a crushing defeat?" "You are very arrogant." Haluz was full of confidence. "Shattered Light is a custom-made commander-class armor that my brother made for me. It can increase my strength by almost half." Normally, he would often spar with Han Xiao, but most of the time, he would be beaten up. He could only play the role of a practice partner. He had always been depressed and had long wanted to wash away his shame. At this moment, he felt that his chance had finally come. With Han Xiao's strength, it would be very difficult to win against him after he got his armor back. "Then, I'll try to be gentle. I'll still be the one to fix your armor if I break it." Han Xiao smiled. He could use this opportunity to reverse engineer the commander-class armor's blueprint. Under the setting sun on the plains, the two of them were 200 meters apart. This distance was just a sprint for both of them. Haluz put on shattered light, and his face was covered by a helmet. He was covered in silver-blue precision armor, just like a gorgeous ancient knight's armor. 2 pieces of pure white soft metal extended out from each of his shoulders, hanging behind him like a cape. A majestic silver-white flame aura soared into the sky, and the dust on the ground rippled. The aura was astonishing. The 10-meter-long battleship's slicing blade was entwined with a fierce silver wind. The shattering light armor had increased his pugilist energy. The troops in the camp far away sensed this shocking energy wave. The guards came to the edge of the camp and watched in shock. He's indeed much stronger. Han Zhao's eyes sparkled. Looking at it, Haluz's energy wave and shattered light form was at least 30% stronger. Boom! Haluz swung his blade, and a silver wave of 20 to 30 meters broke through the ground. Dirt flew everywhere like a tsunami. Silver light instantly filled Han Zhao's vision. Compressed orbs were opened, and the Void Dragon mechanical suit was instantly attached to him. Han Zhao stacked his hands, and gray light surged. Void spray blasted the incoming wave into pieces. Swoosh! The next moment, a cold light flashed past the silver pieces and slashed down. Haluz followed the slash like an arrow. His attacks were swift and fierce, going straight for Han Zhao's face, not giving him any space to set up. A tactic that can be guessed without even thinking. Han Zhao dodged to the side easily. The slash hit the ground, and the shock wave spread, turning the ground within dozens of meters into cracked rocks. He shook his hand, and a black electromagnetic scythe appeared. "You still have the mood to talk when I'm so close to you?" Haluz snorted. He turned the handle, and the battleship's slicing blade shrunk to about 1 meter long. It was suitable for close-range combat. This thing could be extended and retracted freely. Dang! Dang! In the blink of an eye, the scythe and the battle blade clashed more than 10 times, and sparks flew everywhere. The two of them moved around, and the energy from the battle spread everywhere. The ground within a 1-mile radius became a mess, and the shock waves from the battle between Grade B supers could even destroy a city. The Sunil soldiers watching from afar exclaimed in shock. Such terrifying individual destructive power dazzled these young soldiers, and they yearned for it. Haluz's thick energy was like a tidal wave, wave after wave, surging violently. When a pugilist reached this level, every move they made could cause a huge amount of damage. Their body was their strongest weapon, especially for a martial artist like Haluz. When they fought, there was only one word to describe it: ferocious. Close-range combat was the strength of the pugilist class, but Han Zhao was not afraid at all. His various bonuses were not for decoration. When he fought alone, 1 against 10,000 men, alone gave him an 11% bonus to all his attributes. When he entered the battlefield wisdom also started to stack. Although I'm not afraid of close-range combat, my strength is also restricted in this situation. Normal restraints can't stop a pugilist with such destructive power. Han Zhao raised his blade and blocked the slash. At the same time, he activated recoil, thorns, to reflect part of the damage. Haluz's body shook, and he was pushed back. His legs created a ditch on the ground. Zung! Another compressed orb was activated, and 2 mechanical wings spread out from his back. A gust of hot wind blew out, and Han Zhao rose into the air. Although he could make anti-gravity devices, he could not make them into independent components of the mechanical suit due to their large size. He had yet to assemble the blueprint of a miniature anti-gravity device. His flying ability still came from the wings. His power had been strengthened, and supersonic flight was a piece of cake. Clack! Floating in midair, Han Zhao opened his arms, and hundreds of compressed orbs shot out from the tubes. They quickly expanded after landing on the ground, turning into cannons and mechanical beasts one after another. It was as though he had scattered beans to form soldiers. The dense rain of bullets focused on Haluz, who was in the center. The bullets created countless sparks on his armor. Even though Han Zhao had not had the time to upgrade his machinery, and was still using gunpowder and electromagnetic energy cannons. His machinery affinity had a higher bonus after his promotion, and the power of his cannons had also increased. At the very least, he would not be unable to deal any damage. Countless bullets bombarded Herluz. -5, -6 damage values kept popping up on Herluz's body, mixed with 20 to 30 points of damage from the electromagnetic cannons. The single damage was not much, but the horrifying attack frequency caused damage values to pop up on Herluz's body like a waterfall, dozens of times in an instant. This time, Herluz let out a low roar. This tactic is useless against me. Chapter 458. Bang! Before the mechanical beast could attack, Herluz suddenly jumped up, and the ground cracked as he flew into the sky. The white cloak on his shoulders suddenly fluttered, and his energy turned into power. Using some special principle, these two pieces of flexible alloy had the effect of levitating in the air. Herluz also flew up and jumped in the air. He struck with his blade and instantly attacked. Clang! The battleship's slicing blade slashed onto the armor, causing Han Xiao to roll in the air. This armor can fly too? Han Xiao steadied himself and narrowed his eyes. A pugilist who could fly was a completely different threat level. This kid still had some tricks up his sleeve. If he had not advanced, he might not have been able to beat Herluz in this form. He was not shocked, but overjoyed. The stronger Herluz was, the stronger the mercenary group would be. This is... Under the mechanical suit helmet, Han Xiao smiled. Interesting. On the ground, Eroshia, Fu Ding, and the rest looked up at the intense battle in the sky. Even Herluz can fly. Looks like our captain has no chance. Any mechanic who gets close to a pugilist is basically a dead man. The boss of the Volga clicked his tongue. Teacher won't lose. Sylvia's palms were sweating as she watched the battle closely. The two of them were flying in midair. The mechanical beasts on the ground could not do anything, and the cannons could not hit the two of them who were moving at high speed. Herluz's attacks were smooth and seamless, making it impossible for Han Xiao to escape. In her eyes, this scene clearly showed that Han Xiao was at a disadvantage. However, she had an inexplicable confidence in her teacher. The boss of the Volga's eyes sparkled. Do you want to bet? I bet that our captain will lose, and you bet that our captain will win. How about that? Sylvia had a conflicted expression. Teacher said that gambling is a bad habit. Bullsh asterisk T, he only said that because he can't win, the boss of the Volga said. 300 anus. Do you have so little confidence in our captain? Okay, I accept. Sylvia clenched her teeth. Suddenly, a ring of invisible interference electromagnetic field burst forth from Han Zhao's helmet and spread out. Herluz's mechanical suit's vision suddenly turned black, and he lost his vision for a moment. Herluz hurriedly opened his helmet and observed with his eyes. Seeing that Han Xiao had not flown far away, he immediately slashed horizontally and chased after Han Xiao. You want to run? Have you asked for my blade's permission? Herluz laughed. However, this slash cut Han Xiao in half without any resistance. Herluz was shocked. The next moment, the two halves of Han Xiao trembled like water ripples and disappeared without a trace. Void mirror image. What kind of ability is this? Why haven't I seen it before? Herluz suddenly had a bad feeling. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Han Xiao had already quietly returned to the ground and was directly below Herluz. A new machine had already appeared beneath his feet. It was a huge metal disc that was placed flat on the ground. In the center were three equilateral triangular holes that emitted a faint blue light. They formed an even larger triangle that faced Herluz in midair. Before Herluz could move, a thick translucent blue light beam shot out of the triangular hole and enveloped him. His body was out of control, and he quickly fell. With a loud bang, he was firmly stuck to this machine and could not break free for the time being. This was a trap-type machine. It was originally an object tractor used by spaceships and was not used for combat at all. It was difficult for it to hit high-speed targets, but if it succeeded, it would be a powerful control method. In his previous life, Han Xiao was the first player to use a spaceship tractor in actual combat. Han Xiao snapped his fingers, and all the cannons fired at the immobilized Haluz. At the same time, he activated Overload, surging mechanical force, and mechanical force overload on these cannons, followed by gene liberation. Even if he only rolled the lowest two times damage bonus, it was enough to end this battle. Boom, boom, boom. The cannon fire created a thick fog that completely covered Haluz's figure. Stop, stop, stop. I admit defeat. Stop fighting. My armor is about to explode. Haluz's anxious begging could be heard from the thick smoke. Han Xiao casually walked to the side, controlled the cannons to cease fire, and turned off the tractor. Haluz crawled up with his face covered in dust. His exquisite shattering light armor was now charred and cracked all over. He was in a sorry state, which made his heart ache. He originally had the upper hand, but he did not expect to be hit with a flaw and lose instantly. When did Black Star become so strong? I can't beat him even with shattering light armor. Not only did the gap not shrink, but it grew even bigger. He thought that he could win this round and wash away his shame, so he felt even more depressed. How much strength did you use just now? Not full strength anyway. Are you angry? Han Xiao laughed. Because the weakness of the mechanic class was being attacked in the face, he was the least afraid of being attacked in the face. In his previous life, he had played the mechanic class for so many years, and the number of people who could attack in the face could be piled up into a small mountain. Do you really want to kill me, a mechanic with 27,000 HP and a full set of mecha armor? He looked as steady as an old dog, but in reality, he was still as steady as an old dog. However, although he had won, Han Xiao still noticed some problems. This set of skills seemed a little weak against opponents of the same level. It had to be combined with explosive skills to win in one round. There's no problem with the tactical thinking. Looks like I need to build some stronger machines. Han Xiao thought to himself. Haluz was still clenching his teeth. He was used to fighting head-on, but fighting with Han Xiao felt like he was being restrained. He felt uncomfortable all over. It seemed like he had the upper hand all the time, but it was more like he was being led by the nose. The battle seemed very intense, but only he knew how good Han Xiao was at dodging. He barely managed to land a few hits. Haluz could not use his strong pugilist skills, so he could not fight to his heart's content at all. All right, stop struggling. It's not the first time you've lost to me. Take off your clothes. I'll fix it for you. Han Xiao patted Haluz on the shoulder and comforted him. The two of them were taking off their armor. On the other side, Sylvia's face was red with excitement. She could not wait to stretch out her hand, giggled, and said, 300 annas. You have to accept your loss. My hard-earned money. The eldest Volga brother howled in grief and pounded his chest. I shouldn't have trusted that old plum. After leaving planet Senil, the spaceship took off. In the machinery modification room on the spaceship, Han Xiao fixed shattered light. This time, he had fulfilled the prerequisite knowledge and obtained the commander-grade armor blueprint after paying a sum of experience. This was a set of armor specifically for supers. Its attributes were even stronger, and it could even increase energy. Other than the lack of functions, its performance was not much worse than his Amphiptera. However, in comparison, the materials were much cheaper, and the cost of mass production was even lower. Han Xiao had already gathered the 3 sets of armor of the Senil system, Enlisty, NCO, and Commander Grade. This set could be sold to the players step by step. It could basically be considered the first set of faction specialties. After all, Senil would not sell their top-grade armor. They had to complete missions to gain faction favorability, unlike him, who could directly exchange for it with money. The other party wanted liver, while he wanted money. The difference between them was obvious. Spending money could save time, and time was priceless. This way, was it not using sinful money to exchange for priceless time? What a huge profit! Norios was very far away, located at the edge of the Shattered Star Ring. It was like one of the gates into the Shattered Star Ring. Even with all kinds of stargates, spaceships would still need to travel for many days to reach it. This ample time was enough for him to build stronger new machinery and strengthen his combat system. Furthermore, He also had time to think about what he should prepare for the upcoming version 2.0 during the version update period. Now, the problem of promotion had been perfectly solved. This made Han Xiao heave a huge sigh of relief. It was much earlier than he had expected, which meant that he had saved a lot of time. After completing this mission with Ames, it was time for him to officially start the early stages of the plan. Chapter 459. Many days later, through the porthole, a metallic planet gradually approached. There was no greenery of the forest, no dust of the land, and no blue of the sea. The ubiquitous metal replaced nature and occupied the surface of the planet. Destination detected. Arriving at Norios. Surface temperature suitable. In the spaceship hall, a round-headed robot spoke in a mechanical voice. Its cylindrical body was like a can, and there were slender mechanical arms on both sides of its body. It was about 1 meter tall and only reached the thigh of a normal human. There was a wheel below it, and that was how it moved. Suddenly, a large hand grabbed the robot's head and lifted it into the air. The robot seemed to be panicking, and its 2 mechanical arms swayed in the air. Together with its round robot body, it looked strangely cute. "Caught hum," the robot spoke. This time, the man in black sitting on the sofa spoke. "Put it down. How many times have I told you, Haluz? Don't play with my robot." Haluz shrugged and put down the robot. This little guy returned to the ground and hurriedly used the wheel to slide to the side of the sofa, wanting to hide behind Han Xiao's legs while shivering. Han Xiao casually patted the robot's metal head as gently as if he was treating a pet. Haluz had one hand on his waist and the other on his head. He said helplessly, "Does this artificial intelligence you created really have combat ability? Can't you remember its name? It's called Philip." Han Xiao facepalmed. "It's only a half-finished product." While the spaceship was traveling, Han Xiao did not stay idle. He assembled many more powerful blueprints and updated his combat machinery. He also used the newly obtained advanced virtual intelligence technology to create Philip. This was an artificial intelligence. Compared to the smart chips in the past, the calculation speed, logic structure, and data capacity of artificial intelligence were many times higher. There were a few models for artificial intelligence, 2 of which were more unique. One was to directly input the template data, making it seem like the artificial intelligence had its own virtual personality, but in reality, it still followed a fixed closed thought framework, only simulating intelligent creatures. The advantage was that it was obedient. The second was to truly have independent thoughts and imagination, and it could think on its own. Only basic commands could control it. Obviously, the latter was more agile and had the potential to become a virtual life or mechanical life, but the risk was also higher. Han Xiao only needed a good helper for the time being, so Philip was the former. The reason why it was a semi-finished product was because there were still some logical commands that had not been set up. The virtual personality still had flaws and needed more time to perfect it. However, there was no problem in running it. Philip could download data through the internet, but it would not affect the fixed virtual personality. Han Xiao had casually built a robot body for it. As for why he named it Philip, it was the name of the tortoise he had raised in his previous life. He used it to remember the razor that had died young. For lazy people who wanted to raise a pet, but didn't like to clean, a tortoise was the best choice. Maybe the tortoise would still be alive even after the owner had raised him to death. Looking at the planet outside the window that was getting closer and closer, Han Xiao said with a deep voice, "We're almost there. This is one of the transit stations to enter the Shattered Star Ring, so there will be many people from other star fields. Who knows how many powerful supers there will be? Let's keep a low profile and not cause any unnecessary trouble. Our goal is to find the Dragon Emperor's teacher. Ames is rushing back from another star field. Even if her spaceship is fast, it will still take some time. Let's look for clues in Norios first." Norios was at the edge of the Shattered Star Ring. This planet did not belong to any civilization. A long time ago, a super financial group had taken a fancy to this planet's geographical location and bought it. Back then, this planet was just a numbered, desolate, and uninhabited planet with a harsh environment. The financial group had modified it into an artificial planet and used countless equipment to change the ecological environment, making it habitable. Thus, this planet became a transit station to enter the Shattered Star Ring. Because there were no planets near Norios for a long time, and the nearest Stargate required at least 3 days to jump, many travelers would choose to settle down there to replenish fuel and resources, repair their spaceships, and have some fun. Thus, the financial group made a lot of money and broke even in less than 50 years. The prosperity of the economy also attracted many galactic residents. They smelled the opportunity to make a fortune and opened shops there. Similarly, all kinds of business organizations also started to operate there. Norios gathered countless travelers, and it was very prosperous. However, unlike Floating Dragon Island, Norios did not accept criminals, and the wanted order was effective there. Almost no galactic pirates or wanderers came to this place. However, the financial group that controlled Norios did not want galactic pirates to set their eyes on this rich land. Thus, many frigates were stationed outside the planet, and the port was set outside the planet, not allowing any spaceships to enter the planet's atmosphere. Even the frigates themselves were not allowed to enter. This was to prevent outsiders from stealing the frigates. Furthermore, the financial group had set up a super large energy shield to cover Norios' atmosphere to prevent long-range attacks from destroying the planet's surface. All visitors had to park their spaceships at the spaceport. If they drove their spaceships into the atmosphere, the frigates would fire after warning them. If the travelers wanted to go to the surface for entertainment, they had to take the 10,000-meter elevator that connected the sky and the Earth. This was the security measure of Norios. It was very strict and made the travelers feel safe. However, there were galactic pirates who did not give up. Some tried to force their way in and were blown up by the frigates. Some robbed on the surface and took the elevator to the port, but they were caught by the security forces. The most common situation was when the galactic pirates were robbing on the surface and were killed by travelers passing by. No one knew what kind of people the travelers from other starfields were. Crouching tigers and hidden dragons. As they got closer, they could see 5 gigantic steel space stations floating in different directions of Norios. These were 5 spaceports outside the atmosphere. There were all kinds of defense turrets on them, and a large number of frigates were parked around them. The spaceship stopped at the nearest port. Han Xiao settled the procedures for the spaceship and brought the curious crowd to the elevator area. This place was packed with people, and there was a long queue of all kinds of creatures. Orochia looked up and said, "This place gives me a familiar feeling. I think I've been here before." This time, a notification appeared on the interface. Han Xiao took a look. It turned out that the progress of the second round of Reboot had increased by 1 point. Looks like Norios is one of the places in Orochia's memory fragments. She came here before in one of her lives, and I accidentally bumped into this place, he thought. Fu Ding looked around and said, "Just here I can feel at least 40 grade B energy waves. No wonder we have to keep a low profile." Sylvia was a little nervous. She felt like a sheep that had entered a tiger's den. Luckily, her teacher, Uncle Holuz, and Sister Orochia were also very strong, so she was a little relieved. In his previous life, Norios was a high-level area. If the players wanted to go to other star fields, they had to go through similar transit stations. By the time they could leave the star field, the players' levels were already not low. After queuing for a while, it was finally their turn. The staff at the elevator kept collecting the tickets and said welcome to every passenger with a professional smile. When it was Han Zhao's turn, the staff suddenly smiled and said, "Welcome to Norios, Black Star. You know me?" Han Xiao lowered his head and looked at him, slightly surprised. "I'm just here to pass on the message. Have a good trip." When they entered the port, the surveillance cameras automatically detected the identity of the visitors, and the upper echelons found out about Han Zhao's identity. The Black Star mercenary was quite famous in the Shattered Star Ring, especially since Floating Dragon's background was not to be underestimated. The financial group valued famous people from all walks of life, so the upper echelons had specially instructed them to be more polite to the Black Star mercenary. The elevator was very spacious, and each trip carried hundreds of passengers. After a short wait, the ground beneath everyone's feet sank as the elevator began moving. Soon, it slid out of the space station along the tracks. The walls of the elevator were made of transparent glass, and a spectacular view of the sky immediately entered their eyes. He saw that there were dozens of elevator tracks connected to the port nearby. They were like towers that reached the sky, and they were all in operation. This height was above the clouds, and it was as if the sea of clouds was under their feet. The tracks extended all the way down into the clouds, and the ground could not be seen. Looking into the distance, the sky gradually turned from black to blue, and the artificial fixed star was shining so brightly that it was as if they could touch it with their hands. So beautiful! Philip, take a picture. Sylvia's eyes sparkled. Philip's mechanical eyes kept flashing, and he took pictures crazily. He was originally an assistant, and Han Xiao had given the other officers secondary authority. When he was not giving orders, the others could give orders to Philip. Passing through the clouds, Han Xiao looked down at the city on the ground. Countless spacecrafts were flying around, and they could only fly below 2,000 meters. The buildings that were hundreds of meters tall were like steel spears pointing to the sky. This was a city that was completely made of steel. There were no plants in sight, but it was not dead. Instead, it was filled with colorful neon lights, and it was extremely prosperous. Large ecological facilities provided the freshest air, and under the steel ground, there were many facilities for governing the city, controlled by the city management system. The foundation of the city was a kind of colonial-level machinery that could be mass-produced. When thrown on the surface of a planet, a city like this would be formed. The Norios Consortium had bought this kind of idiot's automatic city expansion pack from the Red Empire and easily transformed this planet. With money, one could really do whatever they wanted. Norios had more than a dozen cities on the surface, and they were connected to each other by electromagnetic tracks and high-speed trains. Han Xiao and the others were heading to city number 4. Looking at the surface getting closer and closer, Han Xiao suddenly frowned, and his heart skipped a beat. There's a feeling of unease in my heart. I keep feeling that something is going to happen. When the elevator reached the surface, they followed the flow of people out of the station. The noisy atmosphere hit them in the face, and the streets were crowded with people of all kinds. Bang! Philip was knocked into by a passerby and spun around a few times. Seeing this, Sylvia bent down and hugged the robot to prevent it from being kicked away. There are too many people here. How are we going to find the person? Perluse asked loudly as he pushed away an insect creature that seemed to be selling its body. Han Xiao already had a plan. Because Norios is a major transportation route, many intelligence organizations have set up branches here to record the information of all travelers. I know what the target looks like. As long as we ask the intelligence organization, we will definitely get some clues. Perluse was enlightened. You really know everything. How reliable. They walked through the crowd. About 20 minutes later, Han Xiao stopped at the entrance of a tall building. This is the place. The 97th floor is the office of an official intelligence organization. Han Xiao looked up. It was easy to find the location of an official intelligence organization. The group took the elevator up to the 97th floor. It was very dark here, and the floor-to-ceiling windows were covered with black cloth, as if deliberately creating a mysterious atmosphere. After walking in, there was only one receptionist at the door. Beside them was a long and narrow corridor. The space here was very spacious, but the other places were all black walls, so it was impossible to pass through. To ensure the privacy of the customers, this floor was divided into opaque cubicles by the walls for detailed discussions. The corridors between these cubicles were like a maze, and this corridor was the only entrance. There were countless forks inside, so the customers would not meet each other. I'm here to buy intelligence. Han Xiao expressed his intention to the receptionist. Wait a moment. The receptionist pressed a button on the table. After a while, a human trader in a black suit walked out of the corridor and said in a deep voice, "Please follow me." Han Xiao and the rest followed the human trader into the corridor, turned into a fork, and walked toward a cubicle. Just a few seconds after they walked into the fork, another Birdman trader walked out from another fork with a customer who had just bought the information and headed toward the door, missing Han Xiao and the others by a hair's breadth. "Thank you for your patronage." At the door, the Birdman trader said goodbye to his customer. This customer was wearing a hood, and his entire body was shrouded in a black robe, hiding his appearance. He did not say anything, walked out, and pressed the elevator button. The moment the elevator door opened and he lowered his head, the light briefly illuminated his face under the hood. Chapter 460. Han Xiao naturally did not know that the people of Dark Star were tracking the trader in Norios and had bought a piece of intel from the intelligence organization. Coincidentally, he had brushed past ashes, and neither of them had noticed the other. At this time, the trader brought them to a cubicle, and they all sat down. "What kind of intel do you want to buy? Our organization has a very strong intelligence network. Be it current affairs or secret information, we have it all," the trader boasted. "I want to find someone. Give me a pen and paper, and I'll draw his face." The higher the intelligence attribute, the clearer the memory. Han Xiao quickly drew a portrait of a human on the paper. According to the lifespan of a normal human, this person looked to be around 50 years old. He had a full beard, a chiseled face, and many wrinkles. From the outside, he looked like an ordinary middle-aged man who had been through a lot. This person should have been to Norios before. "I want to know when and where he appeared," Han Xiao said. The trader nodded, took out an internal device, and searched for a while before saying, "We have the right information. This is an ordinary person. Our spies have recorded all the travelers who came to Norios. Recently, we've been holding a discount to find people. This intel only costs 100 anus." Sylvia was speechless. Intel was indeed expensive. Just finding someone marked as an ordinary person cost 100 anus, which was enough to travel a few star systems on a galactic travel group. She had also spent a lot of money to buy information on Han Zhao's whereabouts in the past. If she had been cowardly back then and not taken revenge, she would not have known the truth about her father and would have lived in a false hatred. How sad would her life have been? She would not have become her teacher's disciple and would never have been able to come into contact with the superdomain. Thinking back, she could not help but feel grateful that Han Xiao did not kill her. Otherwise, she would not be where she was today. For a moment, Sylvia was filled with emotions. After Han Xiao made the payment, the trader passed the information over, and everyone gathered around to take a look. This person came to Norios 38 days ago. He took a cross-star field flight from the ancient star desert, Starfield. He didn't do anything special in Norios. It seems like he's just here for a trip. The last time he appeared was 16 days ago, south of City 8. A detailed address was written on it. This was the last place the target was seen. 16 days ago? Is he still in Norios? Han Xiao asked. The trader nodded. We have internal personnel at the port. Every registered ID has a record. He hasn't left Norios, so he should still be in that place. That's not necessarily the case. Han Xiao was noncommittal. Intelligence agencies were not omnipotent. As long as one changed their appearance and used a fake identity ID, it would be easy to fool the eyes of the spies. He could do it easily. Furthermore, the Dragon Emperor's teacher was a prophet. After experiencing the effects of the Destiny's Child character summon card so many times, he understood the ability of prophecies. Prophecies were not omniscient, and the future they saw would not be too far away from the present. If the target did not use prophecies, he would be no different from an ordinary person. Perhaps the target did not know that they were looking for him, but that would be a dream. The target should have known long ago. Prophets were all very difficult to deal with. If they did not want to be found, it was too easy for them to hide with their abilities. Just like how the Germinal organization could not find him back then. Han Xiao could not tell what the target was thinking. If the target wanted to see Ames, he would not have hidden at all. Although he had the Destiny's Child character summon card, he did not intend to use it here, because the result would not affect him much. The important thing was to carry out the search. The result was not important. Anyway, as long as he could give Ames some clues, he would have completed his mission. As for whether Ames could see her teacher or not, Han Xiao did not care. After getting the clues he wanted, he led everyone out of the intelligence organization and went straight to the station. They boarded the high-speed maglev train to City 8. There were many carriages on the train. The carriage they were in was a group seat with the seats at a round table. The scenery outside the window flew by. Haluz was playing cards with the three brothers again. Fu Ding was watching how normal people played cards. Orochio was eating snacks, and Sylvia was playing with Philip, who was spinning in circles. Because they were only in Norios to look for someone, everyone was very relaxed. Blackstar was the best at finding things anyway. With him around, there was nothing to worry about. Han Xiao crossed his arms, crossed his legs, and closed his eyes to rest. At this time, a strange man's voice suddenly sounded beside him. "Can I sit here?" He opened his eyes and saw a man with golden skin standing beside him. He was carrying a bag and had a smile on his face. He was a Godora, but his skin color was very light. He did not seem to be a pure-blood Godora. Han Zhao's heart tightened, and he immediately raised his guard. At this point, he was innately wary of any hybrid Godoran. "Who are you?" "Haha, I seem to be too abrupt. Allow me to introduce myself." This Godora bowed elegantly and said in a proper tone, "My name is Oven. As you can see, I'm a Godora. However, don't worry, I'm not a pure blood with high standards. I'm just an ordinary Godora and galactic human hybrid. I'm sorry to disturb you, but I hope to be your companion on this short journey." Everyone had a strange expression. A stranger came out of nowhere and wanted to be friends with them. No matter how they thought about it, it was strange. Could it be that someone's charm had attracted this guy? Everyone looked at Fu Ding and then at Han Xiao. Their gazes shifted back and forth. Han Xiao pointed to the side. "There are still empty seats there. If you just want to find a place to rest, please don't disturb us." No. Please don't misunderstand me." Oven suddenly sat down and squeezed her Luz in. He seemed to be determined to stay there. With a warm smile on his face, he said sincerely, "I'm also a traveler in Norios. My companions are at the port, and I'm the only one who came to the surface. It's too lonely to be alone, and I love to make friends. There's a saying in my hometown, when you're out, you have to make friends openly. That's the way of a man." Hey, don't squeeze me. We haven't agreed to let you sit down." Haluz was unhappy. You guys are playing Wayne cards?" Oven saw the cards on the table, and his eyes sparkled. He took out a stack of cards from his backpack, slapped it on the table, and said, "I'm an expert at Wayne cards. I use the Radiance Domain deck, and no one has ever beaten me. How about it? Do you dare to play a round with me? Why are you acting so familiar with us? Who wants to play card with you?" Haluz was speechless. Oven laughed and said confidently, "Indeed, it's boring to just play cards. Let's make a bet. 50 anas per round. Do you dare to play a round with me?" "Oh, you want to challenge me?" Haluz was furious. He felt that his dignity as the Black Star God of Gamblers was being challenged, although there were not many Black Star mercenary members. At the same time, Haluz secretly turned to look at Han Xiao. Han Xiao made a hand gesture, indicating that he allowed it. He had just checked on Oven. This Godora person was very weak, and his energy wave had only reached grade C. He could kill him in 1 second, so he was not much of a threat. He wanted to see who this Godora person was and what he had up his sleeve, so he allowed him to stay and observe him closely. Chapter 461. Haluz sat across from him, organized his cards, and sneered. "Since you want to give me money, I'll fulfill your wish." "Haha, it's not certain who will win yet." Oven laughed. His laughter could be heard throughout the carriage, and the other passengers looked over. The two of them started playing, and soon, it was hard to tell who would win. Oven spoke in a friendly tone. After the initial awkwardness, the atmosphere quickly became harmonious, and he chatted and laughed with everyone. From the beginning to the end, Han Xiao kept an eye on Oven to prevent him from having any ulterior motives. At the same time, He secretly turned on the metal detector and wavelength detector to prevent him from having any equipment on him. However, Oven did not do anything out of the ordinary. Everything on him was normal. He only played cards happily along the way, making a big fuss. He seemed to be very forthright. 2 hours later, the train arrived at the station, and everyone got off. Alvin took in a deep breath of fresh air, turned around, and slightly bowed to the group. He elegantly smiled and said, "Although the journey was short, it was a very good and leisurely time. It will always be engraved in my mind as part of the beautiful memories. I am very grateful for your company. We are already friends, so I hope we'll have a chance to meet again in the future." Then, he waved, carried his bag, and left. "Weirdo," Sylvia mumbled. "What a passionate person," Fu Ding said with a smile. "Just a rather forthright passerby," Haluz said. "We might be overthinking." Han Xiao glanced at him and did not comment. Although he did not know Oven's intentions, he rarely believed in any coincidental reasons. Even though this Oven guy did not do anything out of the ordinary along the way, he still did not let his guard down. He patted Philip's metal head and asked, "Did you take a picture of him?" "Took 372 pictures, from all angles, Let's not care about him for now. Let's go find him." Han Xiao nodded, walked forward, and asked casually, "Right? I didn't notice earlier. Did you guys win any money from playing cards?" Haluz scratched his head. "The guy is pretty good. He won a few hundred from me. It was such a loss for me, so I got Fu Ding to help me. After winning a few rounds, we reached our destination. After calculating, it's a draw. No one won." His footsteps suddenly paused as he stroked his chin. "Oven? I've never heard of this name. Interesting." Unsure of Oven's intentions, Han Xiao temporarily put aside this episode and followed the clues to find the last location of the target. This was a remote street surrounded by tall buildings, which made it seem a little narrow. In the middle of the tall buildings, there was a relatively short villa. The architectural style was in line with human aesthetics. It was flat and symmetrical, and it had a courtyard. It looked like a private mansion. The door was a sealed alloy door. Only a small glass window on the door could see inside. There was no one in the yard at this time. Han Xiao glanced around and saw a button next to the door. It should be the doorbell for visitors. "We're here to find someone, not to kill. Ahem, sneak in. It's best to knock. Anyway, the other party has a prophecy. If he wants to meet, he'll walk out himself." After pressing the doorbell, they waited in front of the door. They were used to climbing over walls, so they felt uncomfortable walking through the front door. After waiting for a while, Han Xiao pressed the doorbell a few more times, but no one answered. There might be no one inside, or they don't want to open the door. "How about it? Are we going to barge in?" Haluz shrugged. "Since no one answered, let's go in and take a look." Boom! Before Han Xiao could finish, a loud bang suddenly sounded from above. He was way too familiar with this sound. This was the sound of a cannon being fired. Han Xiao could instantly analyze what type of cannon it was just by the sound. He immediately changed his tone and yelled, "Dodge." They were all supers, so their reaction was extremely fast. They immediately jumped away from where they were. Rumble. A series of explosions occurred where they were originally standing. Black smoke billowed. This was the sign of a rocket explosion. Looking up, from a window on one of the floors of the building opposite the villa, a few creatures were looking down. One of them was even holding a cannon. The next moment, more than 10 creatures jumped out of the window, fell dozens of meters, and landed on the ground with a loud bang. Even the steel floor was dented by the impact. The thick smoke was blown away by the shockwave, revealing the true appearance of these creatures. They were actually a group of rock creatures with 4 arms, 2 legs, and 1 head. They wore simple and crude combat suits and held all kinds of firearms in their hands. Some of them even held mechanical axes, mechanical hammers, and other melee weapons. They gave off the vibe of a group of mercenaries ready to take action. They were only here to find someone and did not expect to be attacked. They were shocked. "Why are you attacking us?" Sylvia asked with surprise. "Someone paid to teach you a lesson," a rock man said in a muffled voice. "Teach us a lesson?" Sylvia still wanted to say something, but her expression suddenly changed. **T, Philip. Han Shao looked over and saw that beside the feet of the rock mercenaries, the exploded parts were scattered all over the ground. Philip's speed was too slow, and he couldn't avoid the initial bombardment. He was blasted into pieces and turned into a pile of scrap metal. At this time, the rock warriors made their move. They let out a strange roar and charged forward. Han Shao clicked his tongue. He took off a compressed orb from his necklace and flicked it beside his feet. It quickly expanded and turned into a black Amphiptera mechanical suit. However, the mechanical suit was not worn on his body. Instead, it stood to the side, an empty shell without a pilot. This time, Han Shao said in a deep voice, "Take care of them." Hum. The eyes of the Amphiptera mechanical suit suddenly lit up. The mechanical suit suddenly moved on its own. A swift and violent whip, like a black whip, landed on the chest of the rock warrior at the front. Pa! The powerful kick sent the rock warrior flying. He slammed into the wall and shattered a large piece of rock. No one knew if it came from the wall or the rock warrior's body. Order effective hum. Battle mode activated hum. The enemy has been sent flying hum. The empty Amphiptera mechanical suit automatically went into battle mode. At the same time, Philip's voice came from the helmet. Philip was an artificial intelligence. He existed in the computing system. The machine was just a clone that he controlled. If the machine was destroyed, he would not be damaged. His core chip was protected by layers of protection. The computing speed of an artificial intelligence could control dozens of times more mechanical beasts than before. Furthermore, through the battle simulation in the database, he could adapt to the situation and fight independently. His combat level was extremely high. This meant that Philip could replace him to pilot the mechanical suit, and he could even pilot more than one. In the past, the smart chip's computing speed was limited. Its independent combat ability was weak, and it could not react flexibly. However, this was the most important quality in the ever-changing battlefield. Therefore, it could only be used as a support system to complement his neural connection. However, with a new artificial intelligence system built with advanced virtual intelligence technology, the technological level had increased by a large margin. It was like going from gunpowder weapons to electromagnetic weapons. This was a complete upgrade of technology. Han Zhao's Hound style was limited against enemies of the same level. However, with the powerful mechanical suit controlled by artificial intelligence, the effect was completely different. His mechanical suit was a high-quality mechanical weapon, which made up for his lack of powerful mechanical warriors. Even against enemies of the same level, it could last for a long time. Advanced knowledge was useful, and an artificial intelligence with powerful computing speed was one of the prerequisites to completing the army style. Han Shao turned around and glared at Sylvia. He frowned and said, "Go back and copy the theory book for smart chips 5 times as punishment." Sylvia's face immediately turned bitter. Her head drooped, and she was shrouded in depression. Buzz. Mechanical force shot out from Han Zhao's fingertips and attached to the Amphiptera mechanical suit, providing his own mechanical bonuses. Without needing him to do anything, Philip controlled the mechanical suit to deal with the enemies. He analyzed the movements of all the enemies and accurately avoided all the attacks. His heavy punches cracked the rock skin of the rock warriors. Dong! Dong! Rocks flew everywhere. Don't hit too hard. Norios can't kill people casually. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.